I said, drop the gun, drop the gun. And she never says a word. She turned and goes like this, and we're 11 feet apart, pointing guns at each other. And I fired as I was trained to do. I fired a 3-round burst. And he said, they handed out still an indictment to you. For what? He said, for murder. They come back like 5 hours later. They come back and found me guilty. It is an absolute miracle I was not murdered in prison or worse. This has utterly annihilated my family.
What is life like for a convicted cop serving time in a maximum security Texas prison? My guest today can answer that for you. Kent McGowen is a former Houston sheriff who served 20 years in prison for shooting a suspect who pointed a gun at him while he was executing a search warrant. It was, by all accounts, a clean shoot, but for personal and political purposes, a vindictive Harris County prosecutor and a cabal of corrupt sheriffs were able to convict McGowen of first-degree murder. In this incredible interview, you'll get to see how hopelessly corrupt the justice system is, and especially in Texas, top to bottom, from the police department to the prosecutor's office to the prison guards who would beat up McGowen just for maintaining his innocence. Kent has written a remarkable book about his experience called Reasonable Doubts, which goes in depth and exposes just how evil, violent, and unjust the state of Texas is. If you guys hate the system, this is the interview for you. It's Kent McGowen, right here on The Connect with Johnny Mitchell. I think people that come from more civilized states like me, who did time in Oregon, who saw all of these rehabilitation programs that the staff was trying to implement. Yeah. You have guards that have empathy. You have a structure that really follows the rules. Mm-hmm. They can't believe that the archaicness and the backwardness of prisons in the South.
With no air conditioning.
With no air conditioning.
And in the winter, the little short winters we have, water leaks in. They don't turn on the heaters. They just have these little portable heater looking things. Yeah. You can't, they don't even turn them on. But man, water's pouring. You're wet and cold all winter. And for 9 months, you're sweating your ass off.
Sweating your ass. And people must die of heat exhaust all the time. Every year.
Yeah. When I got into it with them, it was in 2013. Man, they were having inmates dying from the heat. We had a heat wave.
Yeah.
And they put me in a corner cell, if you will. So I had the sun basically all day. And I was on this little short Hispanic guy who's pretty much a comedian. He had no money, no fan, anything. They wouldn't give us a fan. And I had a guard come in one night and said, man, this is crazy. And they had a little laser thing they'd shoot. It was 111 degrees in there at 11 o'clock at night. It's so hot, you're sleeping on, because the whole buildings are concrete and steel, right? So it's like a convection oven. They don't cool off when the sun goes down, And laying on sit on a bench or, on your bunk, on a plastic mat an inch thick, and it's rolling over, you're like Velcro to it. You're just stuck to it.
Yeah.
I would wet a T-shirt, sleep on my sides, have more air with a wet T-shirt, roll it between my knees, keep my legs spread apart. And
there must be people killing themselves every day. Mm-hmm. Just why? Okay, I got life in prison. I got some crazy sentence, probably for something I didn't even do, right? And I got to live like this 9 months a year for the next 50, 60 years. I'm just going to get it over with.
Yeah, Texas, it's not a rehabilitative state. It's not, I call it the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. I talk Texas Department of Criminal Non-Justice. They literally warehouse you in there. They, I'm all down for the punishment for bad guys, whatever. But as bad as some guys are, they're human beings. Mm-hmm. You can't have a dog pound without an air conditioner, but you can have 165,000 inmates in there. Right. Feeding them, slop, spinach, or what are they drag out of beans every meal, which literally have, like you see in movies, man, rocks and bugs in the food. Yeah. They just feed you just cold slop. It's crazy. Then when they do lockdowns, they literally feed you 2 pieces of, literally have mold, stale, moldy bread. It's not peanut butter. They call it peanut butter. It's like lard with something in it. And it's literally this thick. Yeah. That's you eat them for a week, 2 weeks, no showers in the heat. It's you're usually locked in a cell with an idiot. But, yeah. But it's
which might be the most torturous part is to have to buddy up with a guy who's literally making you dumber as he's talking to you. You feel your soul and your brain cells leave you.
Especially locked in with some pervert, he's want to, jerk off on it and say, hey, man, you ain't doing that here.
Did you ever have to smash somebody out?
I got one physical confrontation in there.
Okay.
And it was, are we going here, or do you want me to tell the story when we're going?
Yeah, well, we're going already, but
Okay.
I just find it fascinating because you were like an upstanding cop. You were you look like you sell insurance, or you do.
I've had the
You
same.
look like the neighbor next door. I mean,
I've had the same haircut since I was 2. And I only had one physical confrontation when I was in there. And it was this guy, man. His face is all messed up. He would tell me he shot heroin on one side of his neck and meth in the other at the same time. I believed this guy. Black rotted teeth. And, man, he would just pull out his piece, dance around in the hallway in front of the guards, calling them the N-word and whatever. The staff despised that dude, and all the inmates did. And it was, I asked him one time, man, I said, you're too stupid to commit a crime. How'd you want him in prison? He goes, oh, man, for illegal oyster harvesting. And I said, yeah. I said, is that the law? I mean, this guy was an idiot. And he said, yeah, man. He said, I didn't know. He said this guy had an oyster boat, and he was running Trinity Bay, and they're illegally harvesting oysters. The water's contaminated up near the river. And he told me to give him $100 a day and all the beer he could drink. All you got to do is stand on the boat. If you get a ticket, you take the ticket, I'll pay for it. Well, your third ticket on it's a felony, you know. That's got a history of being an idiot and going to jail. And he wasn't that old. He was like maybe 32 at the time. But they popped him as a felony, and they gave him the maximum 10 years. And he winds up on a unit in Rocheron with me. Man. And then it was Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. And he was like, there was an Hispanic guy. I remember his name was Lima. Yeah, Limon. And I'd never seen this guy before. I never paid attention. It was like him and this idiot guy who we'll call John, and a couple of inmates and me. But this idiot guy kept on and on this guy in the chow line, mouthing off. And the guy was like, dude, I don't even know you. This Hispanic guy was twice his size. This white guy was small. And then he's popping off eating. They dismiss you by rows, right? So we're going out, and you go in the hallway, and you took a right to go to the housing area and took a left to go to the pill window. Well, see, this Limon guy take a left. Well, see, this John guy take a left too, right? So I was taking a right and heard this commotion. I turned around. This John guy's on this Limon guy's back, and he's hitting him. We had a razor blade in his hand. I didn't know he had a razor blade, you know. And there's just 2 female Nigerian guards standing there they always absolutely nothing, watching this. And everybody's in an uproar. And the fight's like coming toward me, and I'm seeing this Limon guy who I'd never seen before. I mean, he was just pouring blood. So I think he's popping him so good. I know his neck was cut. But the fight's coming toward me. I'm looking at these guards. They're doing nothing. They're not even saying stop, nothing. So they came up to me, and this is like maybe 30 seconds by the time they got to me. So I grabbed this John guy in a reverse armbar, and I slammed him straight flat on his back. And I shoved that Limon. We're in front of the infirmary, and it was all glass windows. And all the nurses were looking at us. I slammed the Limon on. The John guy down, shoved Limon toward the infirmary. This John guy springs up on me, and he came at me, and I just grabbed him by the throat. And he's like a Scooby-Doo cartoon. He's doing this trying to hit me, and I say, hey, I'm telling you, man, you know. And so no one's doing anything. So I popped him in the forehead, knocked him back down again, and then all these guards come running in there.
Dang, you saved the guy's life.
Yeah, and they take him in the infirmary, and they shove me in the infirmary, you know, because they knew I don't deal with that. And when I see this guy's bleeding, and that guy took a razor blade and tried to cut his throat, well, they sent this John guy to the nut house for like a week. And then when they let him out, I was in a dorm at this point, and the guy, really good guy in the bunk next to me, been in that bunk for 5 years. They can say, hey, pack your stuff up. So I was like, oh, man, because he's a good dude. And then they bring this John guy and put him in the bunk right next to me. This is intentionally, because I had a lawsuit going on that unit against a bunch of people, but the warden and a major, and they were both Nigerians. And then this guy was on and on for like 2 weeks. I said, I'm going to go with this guy, man. I'm going to go with this guy. So I came in one night I was taking college classes, and he tried to trip me. And so I went in my bunk, and he follows me over there, you know, running his head. And there was a big bright light behind me, so I could see a shadow on my bunk, right? And so looking at the shadow, watching it, and trying to turn my back on him, I figured he's going to come at me on the back, right? And I see him lean up, so I turn around. I'd watched him, so I knew he was right-handed. I was ready to catch the swing. He leans forward and spits in my face, those black rotted teeth. In my entire life, that's the only time I've ever been in condition black. I mean, absolutely berserk, man. And he was a somewhat smaller dude, a lot smaller than me. I grab him on the neck, bring the day room, we hit the TV breaks. I haven't been over backwards on this table. There's 2 female Nigerian guards in there hollering at me to let him go. At this point, I'm calming down, you know. I said, handcuff him. I'm not going to let him go, you know. I'm arguing with these guards, and he bites me on the thumb, which led to a big infected mess. Yeah. But he, so I finally just wound up, I know I'd hit somebody, not leave marks. So he accidentally went unconscious for whatever reason at the time. I said, now, can you handcuff him now? So anyway, I went down to the infirmary, and because they knew I had these lawsuits going against these people, and I didn't put up with their crap. And so the nurses weren't doing anything. So I pick up a large metal, whatever you call it, device they hang IVs on. I wanted to bash it out the window in where the medicine was, hydrogen peroxide or whatever. And then, in the story, they put me in SEG. They didn't lock this dude up for 11 days. After I started, why didn't this guy locked up in SEG?
Yeah, well, and he tried to kill somebody, slit a dude's throat.
Because if you're, there's certain elements in, I know everything with the Texas penal system. Other states, I don't know. If you're totally psychotic like that, or there's a few other elements in there, you do what you want. Because TDC's, their attitude is that there's nothing we can do with them. What do you mean to do? They do nothing to people like that, you know?
So you were also saying off camera that there's a lot of suicides in TDC.
There's a lot of alleged suicides.
Right, in the Texas prison system. But what is that usually?
Well, you see it now daily. It's going on. These are the guards. I was locked up I spent a lot of time, and they call it here ADSEG, administrative segregation, solitary confinement, because they would talk pulling a stunt or whatever. And if I just needed a vacation from the dorms or the wings or whatever, I had that ace in the hole. I'd go down, I'd catch a sergeant or a captain, lieutenant, and say, hey, man, that guy read that tabloid trash book or recognized me from the street or something. What? So they'd put me in SEG for 3 or 4 days. I sat in a commissary, I could read, hang out, do what I want in my own cell, you know. But I was back there one day, and it was a young white guy, and his girl, I remember him hollering about it. His girlfriend had left him, and these guards kept on telling him to shut up, and he was just losing it back there, man. And then they came in and held this guy down and beat him, and I strangled him or beating on him, and he dies. And I mean, they don't care that I saw this. I mean, they don't care, but I'll get to that in a second. But anyway, they string the guy up with a sheet, and they burn off. And another one comes back about 30 minutes later, because there's no cameras back there. About 30 minutes later, he goes, oh, we got one hanging in here. And I'm like, what?
They strung the guy up.
Yeah, and leave. And one of the guys who was involved in this walks by, like, doing his rounds, like 30 minutes later. Oh, he's we got a hanger in here, you know. I was like, man. So I wrote that up, and they tried to cover it up. So I wrote a statement, and I was talking to OIG. TDC has their own police force. It's the TDC's Office of Inspector General. They're a bunch of corrupt buffoons, absolute clown show. All they are is prison guards who go to like these little community colleges and get their police certifications, very minimal. Well, they're not going to throw they're going to file charges on their beer drinking buddies and their fishing pals, the prison guards, you know, because most of them were previous prison guards.
So you file basically a statement saying, I witnessed a murder, and they don't do anything.
Right. OIG called me down about another issue that I had going with them. And I was talking to this OIG investigator. And then I said, hey, and another inmate saw it too and wrote a statement. I had both statements in my pocket. And I said, hey, you know the guy that supposedly hung himself ostensibly the other day? Yeah. I said, hey, why don't you read these? And that dude knew. He looked at those and looked up at me like this and was looking at him. He was, I'll take care of this. Never heard another word about it. They do nothing. That happens all the time. When you go to prison, particularly in Texas, if you, like my family, none of our families have been to jail, no tickets, nothing, right? Yeah. Well, TDC, if you start getting word out, because I was there 9 years before we had phones. Texas was the last penal institution to not have phones. The last ones to get them, I should say. And I was in 9 years without phones. But they'll tell your family, he can't handle, he's gone crazy in here. He's on drugs. He's an habitual liar.
And will they seize your mail? Like if you want to write a letter out to tell the truth?
Yeah. When I was in there, I was sending the letters out and they weren't making it, you know, to my family. And then finally my dad contacted the U.S. Postal Service. They have like Inspector General, I think. And under federal law, they have, once that mail's delivered to the prison unit front gate, it's delivered to that address. It's up to the prison guards to let you have your mail. And if you send a letter out, it's not U.S. postal property, if you will, until the Postal Service picks up that bag in the front of the prison unit. Under the federal law, Wolf versus McDonald, that protects your legal mail, medium mail, and special mails like to a senator or whatever. That didn't stop them, man. When I had federal lawsuits going, it cost me a lawsuit. Because I had the federal judge in Houston, administrative judge, send an order for some more information for me. And you have 30 days to respond to a federal order, right? And I got it was like 38 days past due when I get the letter. They do that all the time.
What is it about the culture of Texas, which is one of the worst that I've ever seen? Uneducated, proud to be stupid and racist and ugly. It's an ugly people physically and spiritually. Although they portend to be this have these Christian values. What is it that makes it so lawless within the government? What about the culture makes the people, the administrators that run the police and
there's no accountability. There's absolutely no accountability. They do whatever they want. There's nobody. There's people that watch over this stuff, and it's just changing now,
But what's interesting.
That's true. There's no accountability. Nobody says, "Hey, warden, have you had 3 suicides on your unit?" These guys are in their young 20s that, they had an issue with these guards and they 3 guys wound up hanging in a 3-day time period. When you're in prison, you try to make a complaint, your family's complaining. You go to the Texas Rangers, what we did. In every county I was at, we talked to the police, the sheriff, the DA. Well, most Texas prisons they're in these these ass backward redneck Yahoo counties.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you got the prison, a captain at the prison. His brother-in-law is a sheriff. His nephew's the constable. His uncle's the DA. Right. There's no getting out of it. Right. And if you do reach out to the feds or Texas Rangers, we did a number of times, they call the Texas Rangers. Say they would call down to Stevenson, where I was one time, and then TDC goes, well, ROIG handles that, so they'll call OIG. And these Office of Inspector General retards, we got this. This is our purview. We got this. We're investigating this. They do nothing. Mm-hmm. They do nothing, man.
Yeah, it's like Mexico operates that same way.
Yeah.
It's like these tiny little towns and they're living in like the 19th century. What's interesting though is that you were part of the government and you were held accountable, but probably too much. Mm-hmm. That's what the ironic thing about this whole situation is that you are a cop. And, this is the most law enforcement loving state in the union. Yeah. How many cops have killed unarmed people and have not even spent a day and barely even got questioned about it, right?
Right.
And especially back then, your shooting happened in 1992.
Correct.
When there was no cameras.
Correct.
And more racism, more prejudice, I got to think, within the law enforcement, within the police in cities in Texas. That's what makes this so unusual. So tell us about that shoot. Where were you working? And what happened that got you this murder beef?
To address one thing you said, the BWC, body worn cameras, they wouldn't have got away with this. If my situation happened nowadays, even without body worn cameras, they couldn't get away with what they did, shuffling paperwork and what they did. But just what happened on this, I worked for the city of Houston PD for a number of years after the military. And then I left there under good terms despite the tabloid trash, no issues. I took a commission at the sheriff's department while I was going to college and worked as an instructor for 14 months, then went out on patrol and filled a position in District 1, which is Northwest Harris County. And just in the scope of my daily duties, I ran across this 19-year-old kid who wanted to be my informant. And it was on a burger ring, and there was automatic weapons showing up, drive-bys, whatever. And it was some gang bleed over into the county out of the city. And my informant called me one night on my beeper, no phones, we had beepers back then. Mm-hmm. He called me on my pager, and I called him back, and he said, "Hey, these guys that I'm involved in this ring, they hit a house last night, burglarized a home, and they've got a gun." I said, "What kind of gun did they steal?" And he said it was a pistol. And I got with my lieutenant, and this guy's a great guy, Marine. He's a PhD, college professional. This is policeman's policeman, But in between, we had a sergeant that we didn't like, and he was just worthless. So I had to really go to Port's lieutenant, and I ran everything by him. He authorized it. And my lieutenant said, "Yeah, go ahead and do a buy bust, and we'll do the bigger fish thing, get these guys," which would have led to bigger things involved.
This is burglary?
Yeah, what it was is some real gang members out of Houston went to these suburbs, and they were getting these little yuppie gang member wannabes, 16, 17, 18-year-olds. And they say, "Hey, look, here's the deal, man. Y'all hit these expensive homes up here, and all we want's semi-automatic rifles, AR-15s, Mini-14s, whatever. And y'all keep whatever else. And then that's where automatic weapons are coming from. They were given the little wannabe gangbangers in the county, are giving it to these rural gang members out of Houston. They're converting them to full auto, putting the big lasers I used to have on them.
Right.
And the silencers. And that's what was coming back in the county where the shootings were involved.
And these are like black gangs?
Yeah, the ones out of Houston were. Okay. And these young guys that in the county, they weren't. I don't think there was one. I never saw one. They're just little young white guys, man. They got sucked into the early 90s when rap was going. And
for sure.
These gang members got a hold of them and got this crazy ball rolling, man. But it had been going on for a number of months. And but they, anyway, we set up the buy bust. So I was working plainclothes. I was driving a wrecker. And they had like 4 or 5 other patrol units around the back of the building. This happened over off of 1960s, a major thoroughfare through North Harris County. And it was at a nightclub parking lot. So there were many witnesses. But they, I see the buy bus go down. I get the bus signal. My guys come in, the takedown team. Right. We always arrest the informant. And it was the informant and then the suspect. Is it okay if you use first names? So we can use
Sure.
Okay, the one whose mother I wound up shooting 48 hours after this, his name was Jason. And then another guy who lied about this the whole time. The other guy was with him was named Keith, but he lied to us that night because I didn't have a descriptor on this guy. But I had other people in the street telling me this guy named Keith who drove this red Beretta is the one bringing automatic weapons. He was like 17, 18. And they withheld that guy from us to this day. If he'd gone to grand jury, I never got indicted. But anyway, we take them all down, and on that scene, I'm standing there, I was wearing plain clothes, and I was at a patrol car back door, but I was talking to this Jason kid whose mother I wound up shooting. And he had an extensive criminal history, insane criminal history for his age. And actually, when they brought him to trial to testify, he was in shackles both times. He was in Angola, prison in Louisiana, they brought him in. But I see his car pull up, and somebody with Joe Pesci movie. This big, heavy-set guy gets out, black silk suit, black hair combed back, red collar. I'll never forget this. He was wearing a red shirt with like a big red collar and a gold Italian love horn pendant. And this female gets out who wound up the one I wound up shooting 48 hours over this. But they get out, and I remember to my partner Scott, my brother partner Scott, and I said, man, there's somebody's pissed off parents. Well, she goes up to one patrol car, and she's clearly intoxicated, and the guy who was with her was kind of standing back. And she goes to this deputy in this patrol car, who I'd never remember until we came across a statement about 6 months ago. This is how that woman knew my name. She went up there and said, this is an effing setup. She was blasted out of her mind. This is an effing setup. My son wouldn't do this and that and whatever. And he goes, I'm not in charge of this scene, this Deputy McGowen scene. After 34 years, we find a document that on just a few months ago, his statement and some documents we got to. So that's how she knew my name. But she went up to a minimum of 4 other deputies. And one of them was, I was 27, like 5'11", 185 at this time. Big wide mustache. But she goes up to this other deputy, and Tommy, he was like 60-something years old, 6'4", 300 pounds at least. And another deputy, tall, skinny, redhead guy, looked nothing like me, calling them all McGowen. Well, 48 hours prior to the shooting, she had no idea who I was, clearly. And then those 4 deputies kept saying, I'm not, that's McGowen. So she goes up to Scott, my partner standing next to me. He was in uniform. Started calling him McGowen. Now, I'm like 3 feet from her. Finally, I stand up, and I said, who are you? And she goes, that's my son in the car. This is an effing setup. Nah. And I said, and this is the first time I've ever spoke to this woman. I said, and one of the only times besides right before I shot her, I said, you need to get your ass out of here. You're going to go to jail for interfering. Well, the guys with her knew not to screw with us, right? So he grabbed her and get out of here, They get this black Lincoln Town car. And then she bails out about 5 minutes later. And she had one of the first cell phones, the big brick ones with the black rubber antenna. She comes running up to me and she said, hey, I got Captain So-and-so on the phone. And this is like 1:30 on like Saturday night, Sunday morning, like 1:30 in the morning.
The suspect's mother had the captain of your police or sheriff's unit on the phone?
Yeah, well, he used to be the captain of that district. And then I knew he was, but I didn't he wasn't in my chain of command. And I'm in the middle of an arrest scene. I said, look, he's not my chain of command anymore. I said, he has my beeper number. He can call me tomorrow. I'll tell him what's going on. You can get your ass out of here. So drag her out. And then we take everybody down to the substation, And then we're to deal with the informant. I say, when we get down there, when we ask you have a medical, say you have asthma, so we can pull you out to the side. Well, I was in there, my lieutenant, the good guy, I was sitting there and he's across the desk. I'm writing the report. You know, they didn't have computers then. We're literally written. At the sheriff's department we did. HPD had computers. But I'm writing the report and our phone rings. You know, he answers, hey, Lieutenant so-and-so, you know, District 1 Command. And he's like, what? All right. He hangs up. I said, well, what the hell is that? He goes, that was that crazy-ass woman from the scene. Well, she's a raising hell. So she calls back. And then he's like rolling his eyes, making goofy faces at me. And he goes, all right, well, I'll take care of it. I said, what the hell is she calling for? He said she was telling him that and all these people were down there and witnessed it. Well, they witnessed it not happen because it did. She was telling him that at the arrest scene that I was making comments to her, you know, hey, are you divorced yet? I knew nothing about this woman. You know, she had sexy or shapely legs and stuff. We laughed it off, you know. About an hour later, she shows up at the substation, and it's like 3 a.m, blasted out of her mind, screaming and hollering. And so my lieutenant, 2 deputies went there and said, you need to get your ass out of here. Sober up. You know, your son will be out of jail. You can call him like 6 hours, whatever. And so she goes home. And that morning, she started going, they used to have long distance bills, right? She's going through long distance bills. And she's just randomly calling numbers she doesn't know because they figured out who the informant was. And my informant at the time failed. He was 19. She was 43. And her husband was 56. He forgot to tell me that he was been banging this woman, his best friend's mom, and he'd been living there. He forgot to inform me of that aspect of it. And so we don't find that out for a while later. But anyway, she just randomly calls these numbers, and she calls my informant's aunt up here in Killeen. Hey, we know he's an informant. Don't you watch TV. Informants used to get killed. Snitches die, blah, blah, blah. And so she winds up talking to my informant's mother here in Austin. And so she calls my informant. He calls me, you know, panicking, like 4 p.m. by this time. And I said, all right, I'll come in early. So I went to work early, called the DA's office, talked to the DA working intake. And she said, I'll take charges of felony retaliation. So, all right. So she got off at midnight. So by the time we got the report, everything ready to go, it was like 2 a.m. I get to the DA's office downtown Houston. I spoke to a prosecutor there who has since lied about this since then. But he reads my report. So clearly stuff he was alleging in tabloid trash documentaries, he's always lying because he said any DA is going to read your report before he writes up a warrant, right? So we went over it, and then he types up the warrant, and I sign it, and then it's like 4 a.m, and I said, oh, just because they have judges on call 24/7. Mm-hmm. He wouldn't call a judge. I say, they've already pulled a gun on my informant. They've threatened to kill him. We need to run this warrant.
So you're trying to get a warrant to go to the house
to pick her up, yeah,
of this woman, the suspect's mother, because she's
Correct.
Threatening the
My
family
informant.
of your informant.
Yeah, or directly the informant.
Okay.
Yeah. And so they, so I leave the warrant there. I never take possession of the warrant. I mean, there's never been any argument over that. I bumped my day shift deputy, my relief. And I said, hey, Tommy, go pick up that warrant running. He said, I got it, man. So I go home and go to sleep. About 10 o'clock in the morning, my beeper goes off. It's the DA's office. I call it's Tommy, my relief, the day shift deputy, to relieve me. And he said, hey, I'm down here with the prosecutor, and she's pissed off. And the judge won't sign it because said my name had been literally whited out with whiteout they used to have, which they used to do that back then. So anyway, I said, well, just leave it there. Well, he goes, the prosecutor wants to talk to you. So she's on my ass. Why didn't you run this fucking warrant last night? You should take care of this. You need to talk to your coworker. You know, he wouldn't get assigned. So jump ahead. I come into work early that next night, go to the DA's office, get the warrant, and take it to the judge at his house. And it's like midnight. Judge signs the warrant, swear it out. I go back to the substation and go in there and with this sergeant who, not to get into it, but I cannot possibly say as much negative stuff about that guy needs to be said. Utterly worthless coward. But I walk in there, and I can cuss on here, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I walk in there, and he yanks it out of my hand. He goes, go run the warrant. So I need some deputies to go with me, man. He goes, take Mike and Todd, I don't know these last names. Great guys. To this day, to the hilt, they back me up. Our stories have never wavered. Guys ran the warrant with me. I told that sergeant, I said, hey, man, I said, you need to go with us. There's drugs, automatic weapons, burglary ring, trying to kill an informant. You get off your ass and go out there. And this sergeant had issues, you know, over his cowardice. And this, what I'm bringing this up is this is the first sentence in the book. Sergeant looks at me and goes, what are you, some kind of take these other deputies, go run the warrant. And I said, you know, and me trying to get the sergeant to go, we all hated him. and he was worthless. And he was buddies with the homicide lieutenant who sets me up later. But he wouldn't go. He was literally too scared to go. And why would I want to get him to go with me to run a warrant and murder somebody, bring a sergeant who I despised, and vice versa?
Right.
And so I told him, I said, hey, man, you need to get more deputies out here besides the three of us to go run this warrant, you know? And then again, he said, what are you, some kind of pussy? Take Todd and Mike and go run the warrant. So why would I? And I just went out there. So I didn't know these people. I didn't even know the guys were with me. We ate together a couple of times, breakfast like 4 a.m. And now I'm trying to get more deputies I don't know to go with me to go commit this, witness me commit a murder. Makes absolutely zero sense, right? So actually I said, whatever, man. So these two guys, they get up and we're walking out. And when I stopped and went out, and I actually picked up the phone and tried calling the suspect. Because I didn't know about her mental illness and I was threatening to kill people, whatever. I didn't know anything about this woman, I figured being, in a wealthy neighborhood, probably had a lawyer, because her son's a career criminal at that point. So I actually called, which I used to work for organized crime and I've worked narcotics. I've kicked a lot of doors. Mm-hmm. And I think it started off with the Breonna Taylor shooting by this no-knock warrant. Mm-hmm. This is why you don't knock on the door. The one time I did it, look what happens.
Wait, this is why you do knock on a door?
This is why you do not. This is why you should do dynamic entry. I'm a firm believer in that.
Just busting in there.
Well, that's not how we did it. I tried calling her. I called her twice. We have the tape where she wouldn't answer. They had the phone-made answer machines back then. And I was going to tell her, you get what's called a no arrest bond. Like you get your bondsman to go pay the bond. You want to go spend a day in jail or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I figured, just being a wealthy, lady in a nice neighborhood, she's just made some stupid, ridiculous threats.
Right.
And so I was going to call and tell her, just get your lawyer and come turn yourself in, or go get a bond, and then you have to go to jail. Mm-hmm. Why would I do that if I wasn't going to murder her, right?
Right.
Like I said, we have the tapes, for that. So we go out there. I briefed the two guys with me, and they worked at a different part of the district, so they weren't familiar with that craziness going on with this woman. But we go out there, and we knew she'd called 911 before many times, and she would open. Let me preface this as we're going up to the house. I briefed these guys what's going on, and I don't know this about this woman at the time because I just went out there. But in one stretch, she called 911 34 nights in a row before I went out there on April 3rd of 92. It was my birthday, I remember. And the deputy that I relieved, who got moved and then fired over this, all these allegations I made toward this woman was him, and we've talked to him, But she would call 911, deputies would get there, and she'd open the door with nothing on, or a thong, or a nightie, And she does this thing for police, obviously. And actually, she was married to a police chief, some of Podunk town in Louisiana, and she tried to murder him. And that's how her and her kid fled to Houston, get away from that. But, and so she'd pull that stunt. So then they put out the no deputies could go there, but we're all one-man units. So either, had to have 2 deputies respond to any call in the residence. This all happened before I got out there. And then the sergeant started going out there, and the lieutenant started going, then that captain goes out there. And he admitted at federal trial, not to the trial, but to us standing on the parking lot, that he'd been banging that woman for 10 years. And he was
right.
married.
The captain of your...
for 10 years. Yeah.
Your unit.
Yeah.
And for the Houston,
division,
Harris County Sheriff's Department.
out there, yeah. That's why she had his home phone number. She could call him at 1:30 in the morning. He's in bed with his wife, right? All this has come out, man. And the documents we'll get to in a minute. But anyway, back to the actual scene. So we get up there. So we go up there, and instead of just kicking the door, it's a nice house. We go up there, and Todd, the other deputy's with me, he goes up to the front door with me, and I send the other deputy to the back door to secure the back, right? So we go up there, start knocking on the door, After 4 or 5 minutes, she comes to the door, slurred. She was on 4 drugs at the time. That's per the autopsy. Blasted out of her mind. But she came up to the door, and she's screaming and hollering, I want to see some IDs. Who are you, And the deputy said, I'm Deputy so-and-so. You need to open the door. I'm not opening the door. I want to see some ID. He's like, well, we can't slide it under the door. You have to open the door. We're using all this subterfuge, if you will, try to get her open the door. Then she calls 911, excuse me. And she calls the sheriff's department first, asking for my lieutenant. So I'm like, what? And the sheriff's dispatcher saying, well, he's not on the shift. You need to call back during duty hours, whatever. She calls him, I think, twice. Then she calls 911. And she's saying we're trying to break in her house. And then when she's hollering on the phone, that deputy I was with, Todd, he said, Miss Wright, you need to open the door. This is Deputy Todd and Deputy McGowen, the sheriff's office. Well, she hears my name, right? And she starts hollering, on these tapes are all this tabloid trash. She's screaming on the phone, hollering. And I know this is being recorded, right? Obviously, you know. And so someone committed a murder while it's being recorded by the police, but nonetheless. But she says my name, and we look at each other like, what the hell? So I said, man, this is out of control. And we've been out there a little over 15 minutes. So I walked there. I told Todd, I said, I'm going to bump the sergeant, that idiot sergeant on the radio, get permission to force this door, which we didn't need to have permission. We had a warrant. And but I think it's policy now after this situation. But I go back to I walk over to the driveway, and I bump that sergeant. I said, take tack 8, the back channel. It's not recorded. I said, hey, man, we've been out here 15 minutes. She's not refusing to open. She's refusing to open the door. Do you want us to force entry or not? You know? And I forget this guy, man. He says, a felony warning, kick the door. I said, man, what a dick, man. And why would I go get that sergeant's permit? What if he just said no? My whole murder scheme would have been right out the window, you know? Go again. So I go to the front, and I was a pretty good-sized dude there. But Todd's way bigger than me still. I told Todd, I said, hey, Ruggiero said to kick the door. And it was these two very large, expensive-looking, like French-cut glass in it. And all the doors open outward. So Todd kicked the door, and it wasn't budging. And I said, hey, there's no sense in tearing up this expensive door. I'll go around the back, and Mike and I'll kick the back. You stay up here. So I ran back with him, and we knocked on the door for a few minutes, nothing. Well, at this point, Todd up at the front door sees a suspect moving through the glass, the shadows, if you will. Like it was dark in the house. But he could see her moving toward us. So he always asked to let us know she's coming to you. And while he's coming around, I tell Mike, that deputy, I said, kick the door. So he kicked it once, nothing. Hit it a second time, and the alarm goes off in the house. And still to this day, if I'm watching a movie or whatever, and a house alarm goes off, it's still just like a trigger, if you will. Just like, man, you know. I never forget that sound. But he says, it's not coming down. So hit it again. So he hit it a third time, and the whole door frame crashed in. And the interior of the house was absolutely destroyed at this point because the suspect that was shot, she was 43, and her husband was 56. He had left her for their teenage illegal alien maid and had a kid with her. You can't make this stuff
Quality
up.
people.
You cannot make this stuff up.
Quality human beings.
Yeah. But anyway, so he was out. He was living with her somewhere.
Right.
So anyway, the door goes in because it was all trash. We had our flash. It was dark. We had our flashlights. And Mike tripped and fell over the trash in the little utility room. So doing as I was trained to do, and I train people, I jumped up, put me number one on the stick. Well, if that front door would have gone in when Todd kicked it, he would have probably shot her. He'd have been the first one in. And if Malloy wouldn't have tripped, and fallen, I had to protect him. I went over him. If he would have fallen in, he would have probably shot the suspect. If I devised this plan,
all right, so what happened?
Genius. Anyway, so we get in, I clear everything. I look to the right, a large living room. There's a door on an open door, which led to the bedroom suite. I see the suspect clear it from right to left. She wasn't going in it, but so we beeline it, which is a big issue. People, why'd you run straight to the bedroom? Well, yeah, if you see the suspect, you're not going to go, why are you going to search the rest of the house? So I come in the door opened up back like that, and I leaned in. I see the suspect, her gun in her right hand, and her right elbow on her hip. And I tell her, I have my flashlight up, I have my Glock, and I said, drop the gun. And she never says a word. She turned and goes like this, and we're 11 feet apart, pointing guns at each other. And I told her a third time, because the weapon was indexed. It wasn't on the trigger at this point. You do literally slow down. Everything slows down and tunnel vision,
So she didn't have her finger on the trigger?
Not at this point.
Okay.
And then, because I see that. I saw it like it happened just a while ago, But I'm watching. The only way someone's going to accuse with their hands.
Because already at this point, most cops all over the country in any state would have shot her and been completely justified.
And Todd's statements, and in a recent interview with the FBI guy, I'll tell you about in a minute, he said on video, he said, the only thing I saw McGowen do that night wrong, he should have shot her when he first leaned in there and had the gun pointed at him. And he goes, I'd have plugged her 3 times on the chest. That's him. He's kind of a rough old dude. Good guy, man. But I tell her twice. I said, drop the gun. Well, she comes up with a gun, and her finger's still not on the trigger. I told her, I said, drop the gun, I'm going to shoot you. I was hollering because, the house alarm's going off, and everybody's hollering. The third time, I said, drop the gun, I'm going to shoot you. And she see her put her finger on the trigger, and I fired as I was trained to do. I fired a 3-round burst. And
you hit her in the chest?
Yeah, right. To prove her, at least nothing else, she was pointing at me because there was a bullet, the bullet skid across the garment she was wearing. And it struck her right in the center. And I was firing as hard, fast as I could, and I had a custom built Glock. But the first round struck her right here. And then she kind of moved, and bullet 2, following 1, struck her in her right arm, then went through, exited here, and went into the chest, but it was a non-lethal wound. And then as I was backing up, in the third round, we saw the cable converter boxes on top of the TV back in the day. But it hit that, deformed the bullet, and it literally ricocheted at a slight angle. And she literally fell into that one as she's going down. And it struck her across here, across the face, non-fatal one. But she pretty much killed her instantly from when I read.
The chest shot.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was instantaneous.
And was that the first time you'd ever discharged your weapon?
Hit somebody, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Been close many, many times.
Uh-huh.
But it was just, what's another thing? And what if I had gone in there and she didn't have the gun? There was a murder plot again. But you have to understand, this suspect escalated this at every possible level. She stepped it up. Should have made her threats. Should have answered the phone, when we're trying to call her. She's just like a normal person, open the door, And then grabbed the gun, then ran, then pointed at me, then put it down, then, and then put her finger on the trigger and started to fire it. The suspect escalated this. She had every opportunity to stop this from happening, and she forced the situation.
Right. That's why this is so crazy. It seems so out of the ordinary that you would get charged for murder. A cop, a sheriff.
First-degree murder, yeah.
First-degree murder. So they said you premeditated it.
Right. The loophole fantastic, yes. The loophole that they, if you will, that they got me, they said I lied to get the warrant. I mean, there was no contention that she had the firearm.
Right.
There's 2 guys that were with me.
Yeah.
After, butted out I fired the shots. I know Mike's behind me. I don't know Todd's behind him. And then my immediate emotion was, to get to the warrant. My immediate emotion was anger. I mean, it's a split second. And they made a big issue because I did look at Mike right next to me. And I was like, fuck, I told her, man, I told her, Well, at trial, they're like, it was wink, like we weren't even friends. I mean, we ran calls together. We never socialized off duty or anything. But they made it look like it was like a wink, and hey, man, you heard me, right, bro? Hey, you got me on this, right? But nothing like that, man. Pure fucking panic, chaos.
Okay, and they said you lied to get the search warrant. Like you said that you made it up that she had threatened your CI.
Correct.
Did you have any proof to the contrary? Did you
we
have
had
any
the
calls?
we had the witness statements. I called his mother. When I talked to the first prosecutor the night to get the warrant, she was here in Austin. I found the mother. And because the son couldn't remember her address, so I called Austin PD. They kind of knew it when they found her. And she called me. And I specifically asked her, same question you always ask somebody in a situation. I said, do you think, her name was Susan White, it's pretty public. And I asked the mother, I said, have you ever spoken to Susan White? She goes, yeah. She goes, I've talked to her, my son hanging out there. And she goes, I think she's crazy. And these are just like motorcycle meth head people. But she said, and I said, do you think that Susan White has the ability to have bring any kind of injury or death to your son or have it done? She goes, yes, I do. And I said, I'm going to get a warrant. I'm going to go pick her up. And she goes, that's a great relief. I've told my son he needs to get out of here.
Under what charge? So you got this warrant?
Felony retaliation, yeah.
Okay.
She was threatening a witness or an informant in a criminal investigation.
So how soon after the shooting did you get arrested?
The shooting was August 25th of 92. And immediately, 'cause my lawyers, my union lawyers came out there, and it was at the crime scene. There was then we'll get to that aspect of the warrant. There was no videos, no pictures, they did nothing. The crime scene investigator showed up that night. He'd been like the commissary guy in the jail. It says, who you knew back then? Hey, you want to be a crime scene investigator? Well, yeah, man. Did nothing, And so none of that's been allowed at trial. But immediately something's going on with they take your weapon after you get involved in the shooting. That's just SOP, ballistics. Right. So I get called 3 nights later to come pick up my weapon. And it was the same crime scene investigator, And something came out the suspect's weapon because it was a chrome-plated pistol. About the fingerprints, he goes, her fingerprints were on the gun.
Weren't?
Right, on a chrome-plated. Because there's latent prints or ones off like dust or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, the patent print. That's you can see there, like on glass, you can see a thumbprint. I said, what do you mean her prints? I said, my fingerprints are on there. Because after the shooting, we approached her. I reached in. The gun was under her right hand and her right knee. And Deputy Todd, the other deputy, he was on top. We didn't know she landed on waterbed, she's still moving. We didn't know she was not dead. And, we both see the gun in her right hand. I reached my pinky. So I told the crime scene guy 3 nights later, I said, well, my fingerprints on the gun. No, I said, well, how do you explain that? And he said, well, she was so high on drugs that she wasn't secreting enough amino acids to leave fingerprints. It have nothing to do with fingerprints. I said, how do you explain my prints aren't on there? Well, you're just all jacked up on adrenaline that, if you're on adrenaline, you're jacked up, you're sweating, your sweaty palms up. So I called my lawyer the next day, said, hey, something's up, man. He just went downhill from there. In a grand jury in a police shooting, it averaged maybe 4 to 6 hours. You want to tell your story. Cool. And mine dragged on for 6 weeks. They brought my wife there, threatened to put her in jail if she didn't testify, which they can't make your wife testify against you.
You can't make anybody testify.
And then they were bringing in, nobody had anything to do with the shooting, And I was divorced for a period back then. This is in the 80s and the 90s. It was this culture, which probably still is. They brought in girlfriends I'd had, and they were like calling me, what do they want to talk to me about? I had nothing to do with that shooting. They brought in people I'd arrested 5, 6, 8, 9 years before. How many people I arrested, sent to jail and put in prison? A lot. But I got indicted on October 28th of 92. And before I went down there and testified, and then a few days after I testified, I get a call from a patrol bureau major, a good guy, mob major of the patrol bureau. And he kind of whispered to me, he goes, hey, can you hear me? And I was at my house. And I was like, yeah. And he goes, hey, you need to come in internal affairs. I said, all right. And he goes, bring a lawyer. All right. So I called my union lawyer. He was a retired Houston PD sergeant, a great guy. I called him. He said, hey, look, man, they're probably going to, because this is right at election time when the sheriff and the DA.
I was just going to ask you that.
They're accusing of each other of being corrupt. It was I got sucked in that political mess too.
Oh, okay. Right? Because that's got a huge, the local politics is a huge part to play in how much you get sentenced, if you're a defendant, if you get charged or not with a crime. So that's what was happening. Basically, there was a corruption scandal going on amongst the politicians. You said politicians or DAs?
Well, they're both. They are politicians.
Right, DAs that were running for district
the district attorney at that point, he's passed now, Johnny Holmes. He was hard ass, man. And then the sheriff, he's passed on, so I can say his name, Johnny Cleveland. They despise each other. They're always accusing each other of being corrupt, toward each other.
Right.
So like in the shooting a few weeks before election time, there you have it, man.
So it's like make an example of him.
Yeah, the DA was apparently trying to make the sheriff look bad.
I see.
But anyway, so I called my lawyer, He said, hey, they're going to give you 1, 2, 3 days, fishing days, we used to call it. We'll get your money back, don't worry. It's all right. So I go pick him up at his office. We go into the internal affairs office at the detective bureau. It was in a separate building from Central. And I walk in there, and my lawyer's behind me, and that major's at the internal affairs captain sitting at his desk, IED captain here, homicide captain there. And it's an old detective, big old heavy-set older guy I'd never seen since before. And Major said, hey, have a seat, McGowen. I said, yes, sir. And he goes, I don't know how to tell you this, man. I was like, what? He said, they handed out a sealed indictment to you. For what? He said, for murder. I literally felt like I was struck across the chest with a baseball bat. Literally.
Wow.
I didn't say anything. What are you going to say? Because despite all this tabloid trash bullshit, whatever, documentaries, other books, whatever, I had an impeccable reputation. My record speaks for itself. Chief of police commendations, life-saving medals, civil service commendations, all above average. And all that was shot down right then. And my concern was, what's this going to do to my family, But when he said that, my attorney jumps up, or he's standing behind me. You're not handcuffing him. You're not handcuffing him. No. I'll never forget this old deputy, this old detective. He said, let me tell you something, McGowen. He goes, I've been here 46 years, man. He said, I've done 42 years in internal affairs and homicide. Hundreds of shootings, 100 police shootings. This is the cleanest fucking shoot I've ever seen. He said, you had a warrant signed by a judge. You had 2 deputies there with you. You didn't really know or witness the whole thing. The suspect's gun, which she purchased illegally, they found it in the box of the receipt, the ATF form 4473, where she had lied because she's a convicted felon, drug addict, psychiatric, in and out of mental institutions, escaped out of mental institutions, lied. And
you did the world a favor.
Well, I can't say that.
We're all thinking it, though.
Well, also, her own son, little turd, he testified that his mother bought the gun to, quote, blow Ron's head off. That was her husband's name. She bought the gun to murder her husband.
Wow. So, the husband that ran off with the,
and this detective tells
teenage nanny.
Right, roger that. And then the detective sat there and told me he's the one who got the statement from the son about the murdering.
Wow.
And the morning of the shooting, back up just a split second, my lieutenant and I had a good captain, my captain, and my lieutenant, they called the son and said, "Hey, your mother's deceased." But after the shots were fired, the two other deputies go upstairs to clear the house. And the son was supposed to be no bonded on his charges. Why he was there, we still don't know. But they bring him out, and I remember the little bastard looked at me and kind of smirks, right? And then, but all this tabloid trash, and they're saying that when he came down handcuffed, just poor little boy in his underwear, and he came down handcuffed, and we were laughing, and I was smirking at him about his mother. There was no laughing or smirking.
What do you mean tabloid trash? What are you talking about?
Documentaries, books.
You're in the papers.
Yeah.
Huh.
They have some biography, history, ID channel, and crazy tabloid trash books. It's all just bullshit. Because all this stirred up right the same elections and all this stuff. I just got sucked in this crazy storm, if you will.
It's incredibly unlucky, man.
Yeah. But when they arrest me at that point in the detective bureau, they don't handcuff me. And we get in like 5 or 6 cool cars, just plainclothes cars. We drive down to the central jail. Well, I don't even go through booking. I go into the ID captain's office. He's an older guy I'd never seen before. I'm sitting there like this, And they brought the fingerprint thing and the camera. Whatever. I remember that captain looked at me and goes, "You know something, Brown? He said, you and I made history in Texas." I said, "What's that?" He goes, "We're the first police officers ever get indicted on line of duty shooting," which now it's like a twice a week thing. And I said, "Well, how'd it work out for you?" And he goes, 36 years ago, I'm still here. It'll work out. Don't worry, man. We know what's going on. Little do we know what's coming. So, yeah.
You said cops get indicted all the time now for shootings?
Yeah.
Because of cameras, because of body cams.
Well, reverse. The body cameras are saving officers these days. All these people clamoring and hollering for body cameras. What a bunch of dumbasses. That's the worst thing the bad guys could get are body-worn cameras.
Well, I think it keeps more situations honest, I feel like.
Yeah. It tones down a lot of people, I'm sure. But on justified shootings, which are, because today's culture is, as you well know, is far different than it was 30, 40 years ago. This country's out of control, man, on both sides, And I've gone from, I was brought up in a good Christian home, conservative, hell yeah, Republican. Man, not that, I'm neither side nowadays, to be honest with you. I consider myself a conservative, libertarian, constitutionalist.
Good. I kind of do too. And look at,
do your own thing.
You got a good old boy and a Yankee kind of agreeing on all the same issues.
Yeah.
So
that makes me sick to watch social media.
I mean, if you're talking about like Republican, Democrat, you're a brainwashed loser. It's us versus them. It's us versus I'm in the same boat, the people that give all our money to Israel and have flock cameras in every corner and want to make it illegal to speak out. I mean, that's the enemy. So I'm basically
I'm sitting here in the liberal city of Austin with a Yankee. Yeah. I'm agreeing with you, man.
Of course.
My dad would roll on his grave if you heard me say it. That's true.
You can't blame them. It's like I try not to blame the boomers, even though they have access to all the information we have now. But like your father read newspapers that were owned by 3 companies and could only talk about things within a certain parameter. So now you really have no excuse because it's all out there. All the information's out there. There are no more secrets. 3 million Epstein documents that they just we're not going to release them, but yet you have to go to prison because you're a civilian, you're a peasant, so you can go to prison, but not for me. I can break the law all I want.
True.
So this only leads to violence. If you can't vote your way out of it, and we're extremely close to that, and that's what I fear coming up is that the electoral process won't work, that they'll just say, hey, you know what? We're either going to steal these elections blatantly and there's nothing you could do about it. Oh, and by the way, we're building data centers that are going to, and the flock cameras are going to give your information to the data centers. And if you try to make a move, try to buy a gun to defend yourself from the cops, we're just going to come kill you. There is no more. It's either democracy works or it's going to be violence. And we're extremely close to that.
It's teetering toward violence, that's for sure. Yeah.
And cops should go to prison for unjustified shoots. I really believe that. Like, I think there should be an even higher standard because you're the people that we're entrusting. Just like how politicians need to be locked up immediately for insider trading, for treason, again, like merging our military with Israel's. I mean, these people need to be probably executed because we're giving you the power. We're the vulnerable ones, right? And you work for us. But this is one of those situations where any reasonable person would be like, what this is the one? This is the cop that you're going to lynch? It's crazy. I'm sorry it happened. So you get arrested. You bonded out for 9 years.
Yeah,
Which is wild.
They wanted my bond to originally be $100,000, and the judge I wound up in the right judges in the 232nd District Court in Houston. He was retired. Well, not retired. He was a veteran, a POW in World War II, older guy. My bond, they wanted $100,000. The judge said $10,000. I never set foot in jail. I went home. Got my lawyers and I kept my union lawyers. They were good guys, man, but they were just, dude, they were lied to. They were previously prosecutors at the DA's office. So they were just lied to. But, man, they were just good dudes that were outgunned way over their heads.
Who do you think the main characters were pushing to try to get you, like, railroaded to get convicted?
I know exactly who they were.
Who you don't have to say names,
right.
but who were they within the...
There was when I hired on the sheriff's department, I hired on as an instructor. And another deputy, he came from another agency also. And there was I think 8 of us. But he just took a dislike to us because he was just a loudmouth, slovenly bully. Everybody despised this guy, very corrupt. And he was in a faction of the sheriff's department at the time that was well known for corruption. And
when you say corruption, what do you mean?
Just setting people up, screwing over officers, taking kickbacks, shakedown.
From criminals.
Yeah, from criminals, yeah. And this kind of set me up. We got and how we got his internal affairs file was crazy. But, man, some of the stuff he did. A deputy, one of the calls he responded to, this is his character. A deputy got drunk in an apartment complex where he lived. Somehow he goes in this house. It tries to rape this girl in there. Well, the mom calls 911. So this guy set me up. We can use his first name, right? John. This one he's on patrol. John shows up. He gets a call. He gets there and sees, I know this deputy. So I'll take care of this. He's trying to get him out of there. He's not going to file charges, guy. That's a first-degree felony. You get a life sentence. You break into a house with intent to commit a felony, particularly sexual assault.
This was a cop.
Yeah, he's a drunk off-duty deputy. Yeah.
Wow.
And so the mother gets arguing, and John, he tries to punches the mother and knocks her out. This is the mother of the sexual assault victim and the burglary victim, right? He's just trying to get his buddy, the deputy, out of there. And so we have the complete file on this. And so the mother calls internal affairs. And you know what happened to him? Nothing. They cleared it unfounded. And in another particular call that stood out, there was a lady she was at a bus stop, some kind of disturbance, and she's the one who called the police. And she had an infant in her hands. And I don't know the extreme details, but she was getting loud or something. And so Denham decides to arrest the complainant, the victim of the crime, who had a little like 4 or 6 month old baby in arms. And he yanks the baby out, and the baby hits the ground, beats up the mom, and arrests the mother. Of course, goes to internal affairs. You know what happened to him? Nothing.
How is that possible? How are there not federal indictments coming down on these cops?
Because if you try to complain on something like that, and like he was so well connected with this one major that was running this, because in Texas you have the sheriff, then you have the chief deputy, second in command, and then you have majors that are over like patrol bureau, detective bureau, investigations, whatever. And there's this major, and he had this clique, a cabal, if you will, cabal of just these assholes, man.
Yeah.
Like I was telling you pre-interview, last night I get a call after I was on another podcast. A narcotics sergeant from the sheriff's department called me, and right after my deal happened, they went after him because he up to him. They wrote up a bogus warrant, tried to get him to sign it, run it, and he wouldn't do it. He winds up getting 10 years in prison. And then, but during the, that's where I get indicted. I go back home. We start the legal thing. And at this point, man, because the suspect was from Louisiana, and I lived in a different county. I lived about an hour and a half out of Houston. There was crawfish in our mailbox. Had brake lines cut on my truck, tires cut.
By who?
House was shot up. It was just happening out there. And so, but on the other hand, I'd go get my mail, and there'd be a videotape or a file in there. People were trying to help me. also. But but during that time period, this prosecutor, we'll call him Ed. That's his name. Let's go with his first name. He had this fixation on my wife, and he would stalk us all the time. And she was managing a restaurant. He would come in there and drink, chain smoke, staring at her. I called the sheriff about getting a restraining order against him. It just got crazier and crazier, man. And then they'd go to my kids' schools. We'd have been in private school, try to talk to the kids. They're like in 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade, And I had an enlisted phone number. My brother was in law enforcement, and the DA was giving them their numbers, And then it just got crazier. And finally got so out of hand, a lot of dangerous stuff was happening. My judge called me into his office, my lawyers. And he said, look, I have concern about you and your wife's safety. And he goes, this is a good judge. And he said, I have grave concern over your children's safety. I'm getting wind of what's going on. I said, yeah, exactly.
Now, why are you're being harassed by cops? Why?
Well,
why did
they're private because
is it because they're worried that you're gonna expose them? Like you're the one that's being railroaded.
Yeah, well, and also we had officers helping us out, giving us stuff. But there were private detectives investigators got involved because my family, my dad had his own oil company, whatever. They saw money. And the family of the suspect, they had not had anything to do with her for more than a year, as per other witnesses. Because they're like, we've had it with her, man. She was a drug addict, criminal. Now our son's a complete lunatic. And then she was suicidal, homicidal. But they, and it was crazy stuff. But the judge said, do you have relatives out of state, And I said, yeah, sure. I said, but can we go to Montana? He goes, I don't care where you go. You've always been at the hearing. As long as you're going to come back with a hearing. I said, yes, sir. Wow. So my wife and I, we called my mom and dad, and we only had 3 kids at this point. So the kids went and stayed at my parents' ranch. And then my wife and I drive all the way to Montana. We get up there, find a place to live. We're gone like 10 days, 2,400 miles, whatever. We're coming back. We stop in Butte, Montana. It's just some little pine lodge inn or something, spend the night. We're going to get up like 4 the next morning and start back. It's like a 3 or 4 day drive. Well, she's going to take a shower, so I go to get us hamburgers or something to eat in the room. And I come back and I see 3 Medicine Bow County Sheriff's cars pulling out. Man, what happened? So I walk over to my room, the door's kicked down. My wife's completely hysterical, soaking wet, nothing but a towel around her. And it took me like 5 minutes to calm her down. What the hell happened? Well, she called her sister in Houston, and the DA had an illegal trap and trace on her phone. And she told her, not we're hiding, the judge told us to go, And my bondsman lived across the street from me, so it's nothing with a bond. I was under no restrictions. I could do whatever I wanted on the bond. But, this prosecutor, Ed, and the DA investigator, Steve, who was buddies with the homicide lieutenant, set me up. They called that sheriff's department up there. There's a bunch of redneck deputies up there, all big city DAs calling me. I told them that I was a convicted murderer and I'd kidnapped my wife to take her to Montana, murder her, and bury her in the mountains. So that didn't go over well. So she's hysterical, man.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, all this is well documented. Plenty of witnesses, especially since we're into this FBI agent for the last 3 years investigated this. But
did you call the feds at any point while you're getting? Because that's what I would have done. I would have tried to get the FBI.
Well, actually, my lawyers went.
What's been happening?
Actually, my lawyers went to FBI about the shooting itself. They said, "Hey, we're not getting whatever Harris County's going to do. We know it's a clean shoot." They said, "We're not getting involved in any. Don't worry about us coming after them for anything." But my wife was so upset at that. I'm going to drive home with her. So I put her on a plane, fly back to Houston. She goes off the plane in Houston, and how do they know this? We don't know. But the prosecutors on my ass, Ed and Steve and John, the homicide guy, and the DA investigator, they're waiting at the airport. Wife steps off the plane. My mom and sister are there to get her, And they go tell my wife that, no, you have to go with us. She didn't know she didn't have to go, And so they take her downtown. They're all upset, And prosecutor's showing her autopsy pictures of the suspect and this is what he's going to murder you. We know his type, This is what he's going to do to you. You need to testify for us, trying to turn her on me. These guys are dirty, man. So we come back to Houston. So that situation went down, and then I finally got a job. I had 6 jobs within a year, and every time I get a job, the DA, the prosecutors would call whoever I was working for. So I'm pretty sure I can get a job,
Mm-hmm.
But I got jobs doing stuff I had no idea how to do. I just talked myself into it. But that prosecutor would call these companies say he's a psycho, convicted murderer, and I wasn't convicted of anything. I kept being fired, so I started being an entrepreneur. So I was an entrepreneur for like 8 or 9 years. But another event that happened on that, I had a job, and I was in Birmingham, Alabama, and this is like a few days before Christmas. And I'd call home every night, check on my wife and kids. Call home, Michelle's hysterical. He was in the house. Like, damn, what are you talking about? Ed, the prosecutor. Because he stalked us all the time. We'd be at a restaurant, Bennigan's, or where they said back then. We'd be eating with the family, and he'd be sitting in his old truck, waving at us and stuff, taking pictures of us. He stalked us incessantly.
Were you allowed to have a gun?
Negative. Well, yeah. Yeah, back then would.
You
can be under indictment, and you can't purchase a firearm, transfer a firearm, sell a firearm, but you can't leave the state with a firearm.
But you can have one in your house?
Yeah.
Okay, so your wife could have one or something?
Yeah.
Okay. That's crazy, man.
Yeah, I didn't carry a gun back then.
Yeah, for sure.
This guy's a psycho.
You fit some in those boots right there, partner.
Yeah, roger that. But when I was in Birmingham, Alabama, when I called, it's like a few days before Christmas, right? She's hysterical. Who was in the house? Ed was in the house. Oh, what? And and she told me he knocked on the door. She said he had been hiding in the bush. It was summer. It was Christmas, so it gets dark early. She took and he was stalking her. She took my children to her sister's kids, their cousin's birthday party in the same neighborhood. She comes in and parks and goes in, and she said he had been hiding in the bushes. She said, within 5 seconds, somebody's banging on the door. And I always told her, keep the doors locked, use the peephole. She didn't at this one event. Well, she opened his door, and he was like 6'3", bulgy-eyed, patchy hair, patchy beard.
1,000%.
Not a chance. If you saw him standing on a street corner, you'd say, that dude's straight up baby raper, man. But creepy. If you're a male, the one thing you don't want to be called is a creepy.
By the way, these are the kind of people, local cops, these are the people that license plate reading companies like Flock cameras, these are the people who are getting literally all of our information.
Yeah.
These are the people that are getting that are watching us 24 hours a day.
They know where your kids are going to school.
Exactly.
Where they play.
Well, they have Flock cameras across the street from playgrounds. These are... I mean, I hate cops. You're a good guy.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're not a cop, bro. You're a crook. You're a convict, bro. You just came off a 20.
Former officer. I tell people, say, I used to be a policeman. I'm legally retired, because I was retired due to legal issues. So.
For sure.
I'm a legally retired police officer.
Did any part of you think about running? I mean, 9 years on bail.
Yeah, we'll get to that here in a second. But let me just back up real quick. When he broke into the house and all that, he was telling her that, and here's how we got him. He told my wife that he'd been living with a woman for 17 years and she left him. And that he had a 17-year-old daughter who recently died. There's no way we would have known that, And he's not spend Christmas with his wife. And then he tells my wife that he can make arrangements so I can be in jail for Christmas and he can come spend Christmas with my wife and kids. Oh, hell no. So I'm calling my lawyer. He said, get your ass back down here. So anyway, they go down and talk to the judge. Judge calls Ed, the prosecutor, in there. He denied the whole thing, of course. Called that night. And then we finally get the original first cell phones. Every time we change the cell phone numbers, he'd get them because he could subpoena this stuff, man. But yeah, so anyway, after first trial, I got 15. Judge said, no one put you in prison.
Hang on. So you didn't think about running? Like, did you really?
Yeah, at one point, I was haul ass.
Where would you have gone?
Mexico, only like 4 hours away.
Hell yeah.
And I'll tell you when this happened. So anyway, it was just that appellate was just absolute insanity for all those years. And we won 4 out of 4 appeals.
Okay, so you go to trial what year?
February of 94.
Did they offer you a plea deal?
No, I wouldn't have told it. In my second trial, they called my attorney right for the trial and said they'd give me, that if I'd settle for 20.
Okay, so.
And exactly what I told them, I said, you can tell me to go yourself. That I'm not pleading guilty to Class C misdemeanor littering for leaving the bracelet in the floor from the rounds fired.
Right.
My lawyer says exactly what I told him.
Okay, so you go and you got a jury trial?
Both times, correct.
Okay. Did you feel like you got, so the first trial is a hung jury?
No, the first trial, voir dire is when you pick the jury. And I had an all-male jury except for one white female. And, you always ask the both sides, do you know anybody on the defense, prosecution? Do you know the judge or anything about it? You have family or police officer? Right? Well, the only female, not only she lied about being, when we have her form, I'll get to the papers here, documents. She not only lied, didn't say she was an attorney. She's working at the DA's office for that freaking prosecutor, Ed. She worked with him at the DA's office. She's on my jury. Wow. So during the trial, it was just a joke. Steve, the DA investigator, he got caught flagrantly aggravated perjury, man. I had no chance, none, because I did nothing wrong. So there wasn't like arguing over the ballistics, forensics. It was a character assassination. And I don't know what you did before this, but like in your podcast business, there's probably there's thousands of guys, y'all are the big guys, but there's probably guys that just don't like you because they just don't like the way you smirk or wear your watch, whatever.
It's actually mostly my fans that don't like me. Other podcasters love me.
Don't worry, because I know some of your buddies that I've done podcasts with, their fans don't like me. I read some of the comments, but there are a lot of positive comments actually. But they, out of all the thousands of police officers I knew, I dealt with all your friends are police officers. I had family are police officers, and then that's just part of the culture, And then they found 5. 4 of them I just had personal issues with out of thousands. So what, The 5th one was one of my partners is at the scene where I arrested the suspect. His mom showed up. Mm-hmm. Scott, great guy, man. He wound up committing suicide over this. After my shooting, because he was a renegade, man. That dude he was out there. His dad was like a 40-year veteran there, and he was a good guy, but he was kind of rowdy. Well, after my shooting, there's a chase going down a main thoroughfare through North Harrison, through our district. And in Texas, we have constables. You have like your sheriffs, like the county, then you have the city police from the city. Then the constables are divided into precincts. And the constables out, it was precinct 4 for the constables, but district 1 for us, Northwest Harris County. These constables are chasing a rolling stolen with some gangbangers in it. And Scott sees the chase, so he jumps in, doesn't get on the radio. Said, hey, I'm assisting precinct 4 in pursuit or whatever. The bad guys crack up. They wreck their car and they get out. Everybody starts shooting at each other. Well, somehow, because they're constables, the bad guys get away. Well, the next day they find that rolling stolen with a dead 14-year-old gangbanger with a 45 caliber bullet in the back of his head at Greenspoint Mall. We also called it Guns Point Mall after the gangs took over it. And so, of course, who investigates that? The guys that set me up, right, in the DA's office. So they're talking all these, and my friend Scott never gets on radio. I got in a chase. I fired shots, nothing. He was kind of a renegade. But very likable, very charismatic guy. But anyway, so the constable said, hey, none of us have 45s. So some constable said, well, there was a deputy there, which was Scott. He carried a 45. So these prosecutors go talk to Scott. Say, here's the deal, man. You testify against McGowen, we're gonna indict you on murder and charge you for shooting that kid, right? Whoa. So all of a sudden, he, as they call it now, I guess ghosting. He went blank on us. Wouldn't talk to my lawyers, me, nothing. We couldn't figure out why.
Did he actually shoot that kid?
Yeah, well, everybody's shooting at each other.
Okay, but it would have been justified. They were shooting at the cops.
He was shot in the back of the head, which doesn't matter. But even because Scott knew these prosecutors the guys who watched me have a history of jamming up police officers. Their goal in life was to do this to officers. They're just some.
Fascinating. This is the weirdest corruption.
And this is the
weirdest corruption I've ever heard. Because normally we're used to like, okay, these dirty prosecutors are setting up innocent people, or they're over prosecuting criminals, right? Giving them charges that they don't deserve, hiding evidence. I mean, how many times have I heard that in Texas? Oh, hey, all the time. They just electrocuted a guy to death. Turns out the prosecutor had evidence that would have exonerated him during trial. They, of course, never suffer any consequences. But these prosecutors rather, their business is putting cases on cops.
That was their,
But it's not like helping it's not like justified. This is not like they're not heroes. Yeah. You know what I mean?
As I was telling you before the interview, this friend of mine, Marcus, the last name, he's got 3 40-year sentences and a 10. He got 10 years first. They jammed him on him a 10-year sentence. And sitting in prison, and I ran into him in prison. And sitting in prison, he got his case overturned. Going out to law, his family didn't have money for a lawyer. He got it overturned.
Wow.
So he comes back to let him go. Oh no, we're going to indict you. They indicted him because his ex-wife was pissed off at him and talked to their little 4-year-old girl and is saying, well, he touched me 3 times. They indict him 3 times and give him 40 years for all that just because of his ex-wife. And now the ex-wife and the daughter, now they're saying, my mom was pissed off, didn't really happen. You know what Texas says? I don't give a shit. Because Texas do that, especially like in domestic violence. In Texas, say you and your girlfriend get in a fight, or you have an argument, and she's pissed off, and she calls him, she says, hey, Johnny slapped me. Well, you're going to jail. I mean, there's no, because you just go to jail. That's Texas. And so you're in jail for 3 weeks, and she goes, I was just pissed off, man. He didn't hit me. So here's what they tell her. okay, here's what we're going to do. Either you committed perjury on your statement or you're going to commit perjury now. So you're going to go to jail either way. And so what are you going to do? You know,
I guess
I'm not going to jail. Sorry, Johnny. It's in jail for 3 years.
Wow.
They do that all the time.
That's crazy.
They do that all the time.
So somebody comes forward to admit to lying to cops to get somebody put in prison, and they're like, you're going to have to go to prison then.
Yeah, because you're either lying to me now, committing perjury. Right. If you write a statement saying that you're committing perjury.
I mean, look,
perjury
to be fair, I think people that do that should go to prison. Like even in Oregon, when I was locked up, I met so many people that were like, yeah, she said I hit her and I didn't. And now I lost 10 years of my life. If you lie on people to go to prison, if you lie on people and they get sent to prison and then it turns out that you lied, you should have to go to prison. But yeah, the way they do it is, it seems like in Texas, they want to make sure that you don't come forward and be honest. Like they want your ass sitting there. They don't want cases overturned. They don't want any problems. They want you in there.
Yeah, if you go to prison in Texas, your chances of getting with an appeal are slim and none.
Yeah,
because in Texas, guilt and innocence plays. Well, let me tell you this: right, wrong, law, order, honor. Guilt, innocence, that plays no part in going to prison or jail. I tell you right now, if they want to, they're good. They're going to f you, man.
Okay, so
they'll put you in
your
prison.
Your cop friend, all it took was the word of a 4-year-old girl to get him put in prison for 40 years.
Yeah, now she's like 25, 26.
But how are they doing this? You have to go to trial. Are these just jurors that are? I mean, look, the people of Texas they've put Ted Cruz in power for 20 years, so you can't. I mean, these are obviously cretins. These are subhuman, brain dead idiots down here. But the jury just believes these people.
Yeah, let me tell you how they do this in Texas. The grand juries, I think they've changed the law in a few years, just recently, within the last 3 or 4 years. Back then, you have this old judge. Most judges are old white guys, right? They pick the jurors, the grand jurors. So it's their neighbor, their cousins' wives. People are retired. She got a bunch of old white people on her jury, just like my jury, my grand jury. And I went in there, man. It was ridiculous because I wouldn't testify, And actually, there's pictures of me in there testifying that were illegally leaked out. But they, at the end, they said, "Does anybody have any?" When I was testifying, the prosecutor gives me a little Raven 25 automatic with pink grips on it. What's this? We need you to position how you were standing. This isn't the weapon she had. Well, that doesn't matter. I said, no, it does matter. It looked like a little pink toy with pink grips on it, But after I testified, the prosecutors, they said, Dean of the grand jurors having a question for Deputy McGowen. And this old white guy, he's like around the end. They're like a big L-shaped table, staring at me all the time, right? He goes, ask some questions. I said, yeah. And he goes, why didn't you shoot the gun out of her hand? I said, why don't you go watch the stupid movies? I said, hey, that's not even technically legal.
What did he said? What?
He said, why didn't you shoot the gun out of her hand? He was pointing at me. I said, well, she's like this pointing at me, and if I would have missed the gun, I would have hit her anyway. And she wasn't going to shoot. She could have flinched and shot, and shot us. Because that split second, before I pulled that trigger, was shot through my head in that literally a split second, was she's going to gun me down and take out Todd and Mike. Because everybody had wives and kids and all. That was in that split second. I'm at the fire. My lawyers never went after, they did self-defense, of course. They never went after defense of a third party. That's also a defensive prosecution. I was protecting these guys. No matter what, I was protecting these guys. So they never went after suicide by cop because back then, that was just kind of a little something, maybe something happens. But now it's a big, huge thing.
Okay, so.
But it was definitely suicide by cop.
So you blew, for sure. So you blew trial. You lost your first trial.
Correct.
Okay. That's,
yeah.
What are your lawyers doing, man?
Well,
why do they let everybody go to law school?
I have a picture of me on the front page of the Houston Chronicle. One lawyer, he started crying. Great. His name is Clint. He got assassinated actually on April 3rd, 2017. Not assassinated, yeah. But he, my other lawyer literally puked in the garbage can. I hear my parents crying, whatever. I was like, fuck. But I knew, because we knew the law that if you had 15 or less, even on murder, you could stay out on bond. So my bondsman was already there.
What do you mean 15 or less?
If up until, this happened to me, if you had, no matter what your charge was, if you got 15 or less years sentenced to prison, You could stay on an appellate bond.
But how did, so that was your sentence?
Yeah, my sentence was 15 years. So they give me a day other. And actually, if I'd have gone to prison back then, I'd have probably done 3 or 4 years.
I was going to say, so in hindsight, that was a mistake staying out so long, because if you if you just gone in right away, you know, you stayed out of trouble in prison, you would have been out.
Well, I was facing a life sentence, both. And we're taking a gamble on life sentence in both trials. I could have got life or 99, you know? Because on murder, it's 5 to 99 or life.
Right.
But they, and then the judge called me up there, and he was like, he called me up there, and he said, Mr. McGowen, he said, you need to get you a good lawyer. You need to get a good appellate. You get this taken care of on appeal. And I remember, I don't know why I said this. I said, who do you recommend? He said, ethically, I can't recommend that, but your lawyers know who to call. So we walked out on the payphone, no cell phones. This was on a Friday afternoon, and I hired the best appellate lawyer you can get.
Okay,
and,
so you actually filed an appeal while you were still out on bond.
Yeah,
wow.
Of course, we appealed it. We appealed it, and it was on my birthday. Things fall on my birthday, whatever. But it's exactly, because my trial was in February. My birthday is April, first part of April. On my birthday, 3 years later, we win the appeal. The Court of Appeals in Houston, the 14th Court of Appeals, overturned the case. And
based off of what? What was the main argument?
Well, we had 4. You know what a Brady violation is? That's basically they illegally they cheated and got caught.
Yeah.
We had 42 Brady violations, but what we had, the judge threw it for us on purpose for appellate reasons. When the state goes first, and they didn't want to do a opening argument, so we're all like, kind of, why would they not do that? And so they put on our case in chief, which is ridiculous. And then they actually put on our case in chief. It was like 3 to 4 days. My lawyers called me like 10:30 at night. They said, "Hey, we're gonna not do anything." So what do you mean? You got to defend me? He said they never put me on the scene during their case in chief, which technically they didn't. So if we went in there and just said we rest, they would have had it been a directed verdict, not guilty. I said no. I don't want to get out on a loophole. If I'd known what was coming, hell yeah, you know. Mm-hmm. But I said, you got to defend me. We got to clear me on this, man. So
that just goes to show how innocent you were, because it's so hard to win an appeal, as you said, especially in Texas. And the fact that you won, you know, within 3 years, 4 appeals. Yeah. Okay, so the first appeal, you get the conviction overturned.
Correct.
And then what happens?
Yeah, and I never went to jail. Get the conviction overturned, and the thing we did, because during the trial, the prosecution waived the right to an opening argument. So when the defense goes, after they do their case in chief, my lawyers don't do an opening argument. And the prosecutors, they objected. Well, we didn't do an opening argument. They don't have a right to, which you have a federal and statutory constitutional right for an opening argument. That's part of the trial. Mm-hmm. And so my lawyers objected, and the judge overruled our objection. So one of my lawyers here, and they're both on both sides like this. They're like, don't say anything. Don't say anything. You know, all right. And you only need one to get overturned. We had all this other stuff we stored away.
Okay, so I don't want to get mired in the details, because we got to keep it moving. But so you win the first appeal. Yeah,
and then the state appealed it to the Court of Criminal Appeals here in Austin. We won that. And then the state appealed it back to the 14th Court of Appeals on a harmless error analysis. At that point, which changed the state and federal law, my case did. At that point, that's saying we f***ed up, the prosecution. But it wasn't so bad that the jury would have found him not guilty, hence the harmless error analysis. We won that. And then they appealed that, if you will, to a hearing in Blanc, when all 11 judges on the entire appellate courts hear it, and they all ruled in our favor again. And then we're not going to retry him. We knew as soon as they did it, we're going to retry you. And so at that point, I made the worst mistake of my life, hiring the lawyer I hired.
Okay, so they kept, is it the same dirty prosecutors the whole time that keep retrying you?
Yeah.
How is that legal? If you're winning appeals, isn't it double jeopardy? Like, how can they keep retrying you?
Well, if your case is over, excuse me, because you don't have a final conviction until you lose all your appeals, right? So during that time, I wasn't a convicted felon, even though I've been found guilty. So that's not double jeopardy, because it's just a weird law down here.
Okay, so it's like, would it be like getting a hung jury? Winning
if you get a hung jury, they can retry you.
Right, so the appeal is effectively the same thing, right? Like,
correct.
It leaves you open.
Yeah, somewhat, yeah.
So it's not adjudicated.
Correct.
Just the verdict from the original trial has been overturned.
Right, and then they try you again.
I see.
And so,
What the? So
it-
all these years have gone on, and they have
It is
such a hard on.
9.5 years. I was on appellate bond longer than anybody in probably now in the state of Texas. They just kept on and on. This whole period, a lot of crazy stuff. My wife and my kids, it's crazy, man. But yeah, so then we won all 4. There's nothing else they could do but retry me or cut me loose.
Yeah.
So maybe we're going to retry you. So that's when I made the biggest mistake of my life, hiring this lawyer that I hired. And then I won't say his name here but I have in many other podcasts.
Well, sure, you can say it.
Dan Cogdale. Yeah.
Dan Cogdale?
He was a lawyer. He was a lawyer for Ken Paxton, the Attorney General. When Ken Paxton
Also another shining individual.
Fantastic guy. Sterling, stand-up people. Yeah, absolutely.
Pedophile.
Yeah. Well,
you people in Texas, vote for these guys. I mean, you deserve all the. I hate this state. I'm moving back to California as soon as my lease is up.
I'm about to haul ass myself.
Yeah. Anyways.
But anyway, I go in there. I had a very wealthy uncle, and he said, hey, go talk to the top 5 lawyers in the state, narrow down to 3. I'll cut the check. And so the first one I went to was my appellate lawyer. Brilliant lawyer. But he wanted $1 million cash up front, non-refundable retainer, and he said it's going to run a lot more than that, and you're going to have to pay it. We couldn't argue with him because he won everything.
Yeah.
You know, he's like a PhD dealing with kindergartens when it comes to the DA and him,
Right.
legal work. So my uncle kind of balked at that one, which he should have done because it would have been less money. I would have never gone to prison if we'd have kept him. Because all the Brady violations, they couldn't have tried me again.
I was going to say, like, the jury or the grand jury would have looked at all the appeals that you guys won and just been like, this is bullshit, right?
Well, I hired this lawyer, and we paid him $300,000 up front. And then he told me that was his office building and all this stuff, his line. Well, we find out, I had him for 11 months, and we hired him, I went to trial, hired him in March of 2001. And go there and meet with him, lied his ass off, but everything. And he was this big, loudmouth, brash. And we found out he had not practiced in a full year because he knocked up some titty dance, exotic dancer, gets her knocked up. He gives her $1 million to take his kid. He tells me this. That's what he's telling me. So we pay him. He said, hey, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday between 3 p.m. and 5 p.m., be here at my office. And I live like an hour from there. And we're going to discuss your case. Never did it. Never did it, man. I started headed down there. Secretary would page me. And we want to get the phones. Hey, can you meet Dan at Carrabba's? He was friends with Johnny Carrabba, the restaurants, and Lyle Lovett, the singer, actor dude. That's what I do. Let's go to Carrabba's. But like the third time I go down there, I think this is in the book. Some issues are made about it. I go down there, and his law partner and I, in Cogdale, we go to Carrabba's. We're coming back. And he pulls off this it was literally a trailer, one of these Japanese Jack Shacks. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
He pulls in his parking lot.
I think they're Thai, but.
Yeah, whatever they are.
Yeah.
But anyway, we pulled in. I said, well, what are we doing, man? He goes, we're going to get a hand job. I think he's kidding, right? And this is after we just handed him
This is before Better Call Saul, dude.
Yeah, and this is when we handed him $300,000, right? And there was a lot more money after it. But they, all you got to see is I'm not pitching him, but just his Instagram. Like 2.7 million followers. I see that and I just boil. But anyway, crazy. I said, are you fucking kidding me? Yeah, we do this every day after lunch. We're going to get a hand job. Oh, this was showing my money, my family's money. And so we didn't go in because, they realized that that was bullshit. And so for all these months, nothing. He was doing nothing, literally nothing. And then where at one time, the original trial was set for like the week before Thanksgiving, the week of Thanksgiving. And we're sitting discussing trial date one time. He goes, hey, here's what we're going to do, man. I think he's bullshitting here. He's dead serious. I would sit in his office, and he would drink bourbon and smoke cigars, and we'd go to Carrabba's. So we're sitting out there, and he said, here's what we're going to do. When we go in, we're going to pick the jury. They're in voir. He said, I want you to look, because in my younger days, I was a dashing lad, and he's Mr. GQ. He thought. He goes, I do this all the time, man. He said, don't stare at him or smile, but just, kind of make eye contact with some of the jurors. I'm like, what? And he said, I do this all the time. He goes, inevitably, during a trial, 1, 2, 3 of these female jurors, they'll give me a call, say, hey, you go out, whatever. I'll give you a yes vote, not guilty. So I'm just looking at him, I said, that's your fucking trial strategy? That's going to get me out of this? He goes, yeah, I do it all the time. Works every time.
And you're already $300,000 in?
Yeah. Between me, my family, me, and 4 other very high-profile cases he had at the same time, the 4 of us had spoken. 11 months later, and so we didn't go to trial Thanksgiving because we're all planning, I had family flying in. He decides like a day ahead of time, we're going to put it off. And I'll just get this thing over with, man. You know? So my second trial started in February of 94. 11 days prior to trial, kids are at school, and I was sitting there talking to my wife, you know, and I said, man, he's not doing shit. My wife's like, you got to go talk to your family. You got to tell them what's going on, man. You got to know the lawyer. And then the phone rings, I pick it up, and it's Jeff, Cogdale's investigator. And he said, hey, man, I need to talk to you. And I hang up, look at my wife, and say, I'm fucked, I'm going to prison, man. So I drive down near their office, meet Jeff, make a long story short. We have a couple Lone Stars, cheeseburger, a couple Marlboros. He looks at me and goes, you're going to prison, man. I just told Michelle that. What the hell's he doing? He said, look, he goes, that's not Dan's office. The phone's about to cut off. He doesn't have money to pay the phone. The secretaries hadn't paid in 2 months. He goes, he owes me $136,000. He's done nothing on your case. 11 days prior to trial, right? So I said, and the four of us who talked had given Dan $11 million, just us four, because he had these drug cartels and whatever. The guys that weren't drug cartels or mafia who he represents. Yeah. These are other just high-profile guys. And we'd given him $11 million. Like that investigator, I said, what the fuck did he do with $11 million in 11 months? He said, he snorted it up on his nose and blew it on hookers. Wow. Like, that's a lot of dope and whores, right? Yeah. So I hauled out to his office. We had a confrontation. So go to trial, blah, blah, blah.
So you went to trial even with him?
Yeah, 11 days. What are you going to do? I had 11 days.
Right.
Yeah, you know? So we go to, and he talked to one witness in 11 months. That was my confidential informant, whose story flips depending on who he's speaking with. He met with my CI Sunday evening. I think it was on St. Patrick's Day or something. He met him on a Sunday evening at a restaurant, public restaurant, less than an hour on the Sunday night before my trial started Monday morning. And then here's not one document. He's so blasted on it. And you know what, Dan? If you want to sue me, let's bring this out, man. Let's get it on. You know, that's what I say. People ask me, think he's going to sue you? I don't care. You know, and all these other people, all the lies they've done to me.
Has he been sued for fraud? I mean, like defrauding his clients or disbarred, or has he suffered any consequences?
Yeah, I'll get to that in a second. But he didn't know the witnesses were on the stand. I literally have a legal pad, and I'm writing down, this is Mary Smith or whatever, and the questions to ask him. And he gets pissed off at me during break. Quit doing it. You look at me, make me look bad. It's not over my fucking life, Dan. And the two deputies that were with me, who to this very day go to guns with me, man. I mean, their stories were, to this very day, they back me up.
Okay.
Our stories have never wavered. We aren't even like friends. Now we are, since I got out. But Dan said, hey, don't talk to any witnesses, right? So, of course, Todd and Mike get off the elevator. I said, hey, I appreciate it, man. It's 10 years later, right? I said, you all ready to go? And they said, we don't know. I said, what do you mean I don't know? We've never even spoken to your lawyer. And Dan, what's up? I said, you've never even talked to these guys, Dan? Jesus. The guys who stood there and witnessed it? Well, I have their statements. So that was 10 years ago.
I would have said, go to the DA and let's make a deal.
Well, I'll tell you what happened. So we go to trial. The trial's a joke. It's ridiculous. So anyway, at the end, and Dan told me he went to law school with this judge. They argued in front of the jurors. The prosecutors, the DA investigators were lying up there. They caught them lying. But anyway, and they brought people in out arrested. I didn't even know who the hell they were. Just people talk shit about me because I did nothing wrong. So it was just they had to do something to jam me up. Ballistics and forensics, they had to get character assassination. But when that judge said, does anybody have anything else to say, you know, and I was going to get up and say what he's on cocaine. Everybody knows he's blasted on cocaine because at the end of the trial, you have closing arguments. Mm-hmm. And so we had like a 15-minute break and we talked about running. Right. We went to lunch. I was coming back. My brother is a law enforcement officer. We're walking by down the street. There's my truck. My family's like 10 steps behind us. I see my truck. I stop. My brother grabs me. He goes, don't think about it, man. I was like, fuck it, because I knew I was done. I said, fuck, I can be in Mexico in 6 hours. They figure out what the hell's going on. And I was about to run, you know. If you ever get a change, you're getting jammed up, something you didn't run. It's easier to fight it when you're outside. But anyway, we go in there, and then
what do you mean? Do you think like if you fled to Mexico and you were on the lam for a couple of years, you could have made a deal in absentia? Yeah, like you could have had somebody make a deal with the DA, just be like, okay, he'll turn himself in for 5 years. Can you do that?
I don't know. Well, I say run.
Absolutely.
You, man, if you're getting screwed, if you're going to prison something you didn't do, would you rather be out living in Belize or somewhere on the beach?
Yeah.
Or sitting in this godforsaken shithole Texas prison penal system? Run. You know?
Totally. I totally agree. Yeah. Don't try to be a hero.
Yeah. So anyway, we go back. We have like another hour thing. And then we're going to break for closing arguments. So Dan tells me, a lawyer, he said, hey, you and Jeff, the investigator, go with me. He had a townhouse near downtown. I get choked up thinking about this. I get so lingering. I'm in the front passenger seat of Dan's truck. Jeff's sitting behind Dan driving. We were at Dan's townhouse. I start to get out, and he goes, "No, wait here." What? So Dan goes in, and Jeff, the investigator, tapped my shoulder. "You know what he's doing, right?" I said, "He's in there blowing coke, man." He said, "Exactly." And he came out, and I looked at him. I said, "Hey, you didn't get that shit off your nose." He literally had coke on his nose like you see in,
It's like a joke.
movie.
It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, totally.
So we go in there, man. He's pouring sweat, screaming, hollering, open arguments, running around like an idiot. So blah, blah, blah. Jury goes out. This is like on Friday, and they come back like 5 hours later. They come out and found me guilty. And I hear my mother just wail by me. My dad's sobbing. It's like, man. And so she revoked my bond, of course. So it was Easter, my anniversary, my birthday. All fell on the same weekend. So I spent a weekend in jail, Harris County jail. Come back Monday, they'll give me 20 years, And so I knew everybody.
You could have got up to 99 because it's first degree murder.
Man. Well, because like I told you, Cogdale said he hadn't practiced in a year, right? So this is his big trial to get him back going. Well, he burns off. He called a press conference and burns off because we lost. So Alan, Dan's partner, who's helping us now, Alan went and talked to the jury. They said, how did you find him guilty? They said, because it was like a 2-week trial. And they said, we don't know what happened. She said, and the juror said, for the first week, we thought that McGowen and those 2 guys that were with him, that we just been broke in his house and gunned down a little housewife laying in bed. We didn't know he was a policeman until after the first week.
Wait, say that again?
Yeah, that's what the jury told Alan, Cogdale's co-counsel. They said that they didn't even know what was going on.
Like with the actual event?
Yeah. They said until the end of the first week, we were all under the impression these 3 guys went broken house and just shot this woman.
God. How is this
is
legal?
Texas, man.
How is this? I mean, this is crazy.
Oh, it gets better. And then the jury said, and then Alan said, well, you find him guilty. They said, well, he didn't testify. He goes, he doesn't have to testify. Now, I argued to my lawyers, you need to put me on the stand. If you're ever charged with a sex crime or any kind of homicide, whether it be murder, voluntary manslaughter, you got to tell your story, dude.
Yeah.
If you don't tell your story, somebody's going to tell the story.
That's where they
your favor, and you're going to get fucked.
That's where they up with the kid from Dallas that just got hammered. The guy that the black kid, Carmelo.
Oh,
Anthony.
Carmelo. Yeah.
He definitely overreacted. He shouldn't have had a knife. He deserves to be in prison, but they completely up not letting him on the stand.
You got to defend yourself, man.
You got to. Because then you could describe the circumstances, your mindset, right?
That's the exact word. Yeah.
Yeah.
Around with them. But the jury said that, and then Alan said, what? You gave him 20 years? You don't even know what happened? And I said, no, we gave him 5 years. He said, no, I was in there. You gave him 20. And the jury told him, well, the prosecutors, illegally, she said, well, the prosecutor investigator came here and told us because of who his family is and him being a policeman, he would have it easy in prison, which I assure you that made it exponentially more dangerous and difficult on me than any other inmate. I can guarantee you that.
Right.
And they said when he only had to do a quarter of his time because I was under the old law. Well, yeah, I was eligible. I got a 20, so I was eligible at 5 years.
Yeah.
Being eligible for parole and getting parole.
Two totally different things. Yeah. So they gave you a medium upward departure because they assumed that you would be out in a few years.
5 years, yeah. They said, we don't know what happened, and whatever happened out there, we figured that 5 years would be enough. You got to realize the grand jurors are picked by the judges. You're getting indicted.
Yeah.
You're getting indicted.
Ham sandwich, yeah.
Literally. And in these jurors, not just thing, I mean, there's nothing that's wrong with them, but I mean, you have a plumber and a milkman and, whoever, a secretary, whatever.
No, a competent lawyer has to walk them through the law, what happened, the facts. Yeah.
Yeah, and see, and my self-defense claim, which Dan would not go after the defense of a third party, the 2 guys were with me, or the suicide by cop, which party got me out of this, which that's what it was. But the judge, illegally or unlawfully, I should say, there's a difference, allowed the jury to decide the law. They're the trier of facts, not of law. That's the judge's job. Mm-hmm. Well, she let the judge let the jury decide the law in self-defense, which they're wrong. You can, in federal, and I know in Texas and federal, I don't know about other states, it's against the law to resist arrest, even if that arrest is unlawful. Like say your producer lives at 127 Smith Street. Yeah, probably F Street. But and you live 2 doors down. Well, we're getting a warrant for your arrest, but somebody messes up somewhere and it comes to his house. So police show up banging on his door. He had nothing to do with it. We're at the wrong house, but he can't get in a gunfight with us. He can't start shooting at us because he don't want to get arrested. And one of my writ lawyers was very astute when he made a comment about that. He said, if you don't win this appeal, people are going to get away with killing police officers in this country. Because technically, if you're racial profiling or whatever, and you pull over a car for no legitimate, technically that's an unlawful detention. You just pull them over because you have to have parole calls. You can always find it, you know what I mean? And you want somebody that pops a police officer. Well, I wasn't. It was an unlawful stop. I was defending him. He had a gun. I was defending myself.
Right.
That's the precedent they laid out.
Right. So now you've got 20. You've got to go do 20, and you're in. I mean, I think you said you went to like 20 different units.
Yeah.
20 different prisons.
They jammed me up, dude.
That's crazy.
And I see like comments, people. Hey, he had these in protective custody. I was never in protective custody. I was my first 3 days, and I get there because I knew my cousin was a deputy. I trained all these people. Everybody worked in the jail there, so I basically went straight to prison. I get there at night, and a captain, big old guy, comes and talks to me. He said, "Man, what the fuck, man? You have to go to Bird Unit Huntsville. That's your what's the word to talk?
It's the intake.
Yeah, the intake. Exactly. Yeah. That's the intake unit. And so you have to go there. So they put me on a safekeeping wing for like my first 3 nights. I knew nothing about prison, right? Man, I'd seen movies. Shawshank Redemption. That's the most true one.
But man, Texas prisons, you think so?
Man, dude, they put me. That prison was built like in 1871 or something. Old red brick. I go there screaming and hollering 24/7. And this was luckily the weather it was in March, so it wasn't either hot or cold. They bring me up on the 3rd floor. I went to the old raggedy ass steel stairwell. Everybody screaming, hollering. Well, clearly I was the only Caucasian on the wing. Clearly the only heterosexual on the wing, and clearly the only sane person, and absolutely no doubt the only person with IQ over 70.
Oh, right? That's not where you want to be, dude.
Well, back in the day, the prison boxers had a fly in them, right? So all these guys, they were not like me. They bent over with their boxers spread, butt cheeks, saying, hey, and I was like, this, man. I thought that's what I was going for 20 years there.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, hell no. Hell no, man. The next morning I get to shower and they're running, they're very small. I'm the only, God, not like them. They're all looking at me, doing their business. I was like, oh, hell no. Yes, I should have run. I should have run. I should have shoved my brother and jumped in my truck and hauled ass, man.
Yeah. Yeah, you should have.
Yeah.
So, and then your appeal throughout these 20 years, you went in 2001, you got out in 21.
Correct.
Your appeals got denied.
Shut down. Even
though you won 4 of them.
Well, one reason they had to do my appeals
in the 90s.
Correct. The judge that had at my trial, she's in the Court of Criminal Appeals here in Austin. So that wouldn't help in my appellate case,
Right. She doesn't want to overturn her own.
Which she was still a judge. When you file writ habeas corpus, they have 15 days to respond. She waited. It took 3 years, 150 days for her to respond. Her response was, I'm not responding to this. Even the DA's office with my writ lawyer, because my appeals got lost, so I had a writ lawyer, my family did. He didn't get along. He was a police hater, man. He just hated me because I was a police. He flat told me that. But I think he tried to help me, but nonetheless.
How many appeals got denied?
We had the direct appeal to the Court of Appeals in Houston. And he filed what's called a PDR, Petition for Discretionary Review, at the Court of Criminal Appeals here in Austin. They're the highest criminal court in the state. And
you kept getting denied for parole.
Yeah. I waited 5 years. I came on for 5 years, I sat on my bunk, played their, they had this most ridiculous, stupid policies and rules. And this is a fucking nightmare, man.
Yeah.
And so I sat there for 5 years, read thousands of books, And then came for parole. My family hired this big parole attorney from here in Austin. Don't ever waste your money on parole lawyers. He was a good guy, but it's a scam. It's a racket, man. So I come up for parole the first time, and then I got a 2 year set off. That means you don't come up for 2 more years.
Right.
But in Texas, say you come up for parole, say October 1st is your 5 year mark. They may not see you like April or May. They might take 6, 7, 8 months to get an answer. Well, that time's not clocked in.
Right.
So if you get 2 years, now you're looking at waiting for an answer for a year, then 2 years after that, you're looking at 3 years. So And my dad, my brother, older brother came and told me to set off. And I was, man, pissed, dude. After 5 years sitting there sweating my ass off, reading books, not talking to anybody. And some brother's like, man, just we'll put money on your commissary. We'll send you books. You got 2 years. I was like, man. So I waited another 2 years, another set off. I said, fuck this, man.
Under what guise are they denying your parole?
Well, Texas, they have, what? I think they have 5, like 1D. They have like 1 A, B, C, D, 2. And 2Ds is a general catch-all. The nature of your crime. They throw that one out at most everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I was convicted of shooting somebody. Yeah. But I saw parole. Like, Texas isn't like other states. You don't like go in front of a board like 5 or 7 people, right? I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm remorseful, or I didn't do this, man. The only time you get to see your voters is if you have a very high-profile case or you have a lot of political on both sides or whatever, which I had both, So I think the third time up, I saw Lynn Rizika. Her reputation was impeccable. The rest of parole people were idiot, retarded people. But she was really nice, man. She called and talked to me after I've been 7 years. And she said, I told him, she said, look, I know what happened. She said, but look, she goes, I don't submit to peer pressure or public pressure, political pressure, but my boss's boss do. Her boss gave me the first set off. She said, look, I let a man out here who murdered a Texas Ranger, faded a lot of heat. She said, I'm telling you now, you and your family will figure something out. You're not getting paroled out of here. They're never going to let you parole out of here. So I'm like, okay, well, I've got 13 years left, And
so this is the good old boy system.
Exactly.
Working its way from the prosecutor in Harris County all the way to the Texas Board of Parole.
And she told me.
Do they all know each other? And they're all like, this guy, this guy, this guy?
Yeah, let me tell you what happens in parole. And she told me she's getting parole. And she told me, she said, I can't get into what's in your file, but there's no way protesting your parole. You have someone on the inside pulling strings, making calls. So come for parole again, another 2 years off. Parole up again, a 3-year set off. Well, at this point, this whole crazy story, I'll just barely glance on this one. A church ministry reached out to my family in California. So that's some wealthy family members, and shook them down for $300,000 for a yes vote. I'd known nothing about this. This is kind of a crazy prison story. I'm laying there in my bunk, and it's like on Saturday night in the gym, 115 degrees. They're having like a church ministry thing, a rally or whatever you call it. 2 guards come and get me. Hey, McGowen, you need to go down to the gym. For what? Someone wants to talk to you. So I go to the gym, and there are these guys on they had a stage and like a partition on the back of it. And his guys up there, this big old, these like were civilian guys, clearly ex-convicts. I mean, these guys are big, huge African-American guys, prison tatted. And they're like this prison minister, right? So he's on the speaker. Hey, is there inmate McGowen in here? And I was like, the guard goes, that's you? And I said, well, yeah. What the hell? So I go up there and he goes, hey, somebody has to talk to you back here. So I go by the petitioner, this little old lady, little African-American lady in a wheelchair. And I think she was straight up. She was like in her 80s. And she's in a wheelchair, and she goes, it's so nice to meet you. Your aunt and uncle so-and-so are the sweetest people. And I'm like, what in the fuck? And then she said, do you know if I pray for you? And I'm like, yeah, okay. So she, bless this man and his family and his aunt and uncle. They provided our ministry with new buildings and fund our revivals or whatever, and bought a fleet of cars. I'm like, what the hell? And so anyway, she finished that. So they wheel her around a thing to talk to the idiot inmates, right? So these big old dudes come up to me and say, hey, look, man, when we get the final check, we're going to get you out of here. We know what we're doing. We do this all the time. So I'm like, okay, yeah, right on, brother. So immediately I go to the phone. I call my dad, and I said, hey, did Aunt and Uncle so-and-so, did they donate to a church or something down there? Yes, don't say it, because they listen to your phone calls. Yeah. Don't say another word. I said, come visit me this weekend. And so he tells me, I said, man, you can all go to prison for that. Man,
So your aunt and uncle paid a church group that had connections.
It was a scam, yeah.
Okay.
So it wasn't a legitimate deal.
Okay, so it was a total scam.
Yeah, it was a total scam. But
and those people came to the prison that you were in?
Yeah, these guys were hooked up with this old lady. She's somewhat well known. She died here a few years ago. But they wrote a book about her. She was the first female to ever be allowed to go on the Texas death row to minister to people, whatever.
And she's part of this?
I don't think she was in on the scam.
Oh, okay.
I mean, she just had these clearly ex-con dudes, that they were pulling this hustle, and all she thought was we're getting donations, because she wouldn't have told me that if she didn't think it was legit, right?
So the convicts were like, yeah, we're connected just from our years within the Texas Board of Parole. We know a guy, and you pay us $300,000 or whatever it was.
Get you a yes vote and get you out. We know people in the parole board, right?
This might be the most corrupt nation on earth.
My family members from California were at my trial, so my dad called them. They said that they just saw how corrupt it was down there. They're Californians, you know. And they just said that we just thought that's how things got moved down there. Things happened down there, you know. That was another $300,000. And then the board commissioner that was involved with them, I came up for parole. I was up for parole then, right? They gave me a 3-year set off, and I found a loophole. The most they could give me was a 2-year because of a weird law. They gave me a 3-year set off just to jam me up. So I knew the law, right? So I started raising hell about this. So that dragged on, getting a lawsuit over that. Well, then in 2014, let me back up 1 year. On March 13th of 2013, my mom and dad were terminally ill. You know, I lost all appeals, man. And I was out of hope, you know. I was fucked, man. You know, I get 8 years, my parents are dying, you know. And so I wrote a Hail Mary. I had a prison typewriter, which I literally burned up. It's mentioned several times in my typings in that book. But I said a Hail Mary letter to, I can mention this guy's name because he said every time, Ray Hunt. He's the executive director of the Houston Police Officers Union. And I went to the academy with his brother 40 years ago. And then I sent a letter to Ray Hunt. And his dad, he's gone now, but his dad had been out to our ranch hunting. Very short letter. I said, hey, you know, I went to the academy with your brother. I met your dad a couple of times. I came hunting at the ranch. Paragraph 1. Paragraph 2 was, I'm still one of you. I'm one of the good guys. I'm your brother in blue. I'm in trouble. I need help. You know? And then that second paragraph I sent to the Texas Rangers, I was completely out of hope, you know. And there's all kind of crazy shit going on, man. They're sending gang members and shit after me. But anyway, I can tell you some actual.
Who is sending gang members after you?
These guys have connections, man. I'll tell you some crazy prison stories, man.
Okay, tell us.
Well, when I got in lawsuits with these people, let me talk about these letters real quick.
All right.
Then we'll jump to it, come back to it. But the Ray Hunt and Texas Rangers responded. But anyway, yeah, when I was jamming up in prison, it was freaking insane, dude. The tabloid trash books that were written about me, prison guards would bring them in. Those books weren't supposed to be coming in there because of a security issue, right? And these prison guards would bring them in, want me to autograph them. I said, man, do you think I would write that book about myself? You thought I would never do it? They tell us prisoners. So, man, well into my beginnings in there, I worked for the sheriff's department, right? But I worked for HPD first. But my name was HPD for 19 years, 4 months, and 4 days. The whole time I was in there, but hey, HPD.
That was your handle.
And then I get bumped from unit to unit, which is pretty cool because I would, it kept a lot of people away from me, you know? So I made it clear, man, nobody's touching me here. Because first person I got into it with guards. I was like, they're right here, man. Nobody's put their hands on me, guard or inmate. I'm right fucking now, man.
Did you ever have a knife on you?
No, I never had a shank.
But you were just ready to somebody up.
I had people that wouldn't let somebody get to me, prisoner people.
Right.
Because when I got in there, you know, they had the gangs, you know, the Crips and the Bloods, and then the Tongo Blast started up with the Hispanics and all this, right? And so when I got into it with a deal, with an issue with the one, I got my jaw dislocated by a major, an assistant warden on me. That led into criminal charges against them and all that.
What happened?
Feds got involved. There was this is a crazy story. If you want to hear it, I'll make it short. When I was on the PAC unit in Navasota, they moved the guy had been a bunk next to me, a good guy, man. And they moved him out, and they put this big old dude in there next to me, right? And we were both night shift SSIs. There's guys like, you clean up, mop, or whatever at night, which I refuse to do. I never did lick work for those people. I didn't slave for those people.
They didn't try to send you to the fields or anything like that?
They went to me in the fields because you go out there, they had call them Aggies, the tools they use. They're afraid to send me out there, somebody cut off my head. Actually, I had a warden tell me that. You'll never go in the fields. I said, I want to go anyway. But see, I had an ace in the hole. I had my background. And all I say is, hey, man, that dude over there, I know him from the street, man. And I did run a few people I put in jail.
Wow.
Into prison. But they looked at the inmates, thought it was cool. Most of them, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
They think it's like I came to the dark side.
Yeah.
So I played it up, you know. But a number of years in, I got in with that major and them. It was a money laundering situation. This major was involved in it with some inmates. The FBI got involved. The Secret Service got involved.
Wow.
Then it leaked out through OIG, TDC's idiot police. So anyway, I wound up getting locked up and I busted jaw and a shoulder over it from this major.
He punched you, he beat you up?
He handcuffed me and slammed me into the wall a couple of times as hard as he could. And the guards all hated him. And many years later, this idiot retires and comes back to that same unit as the parole officer of the unit. Even though the guards there wrote letters of parole saying this is not a good idea because he would just fuck over everybody he didn't like. Me,
There is no solution for the cancer of government. It
No.
needs to be eliminated and scaled down to the smallest possible because you can't, it rewards the biggest ups and the biggest retards and the most corrupt people and the most evil people.
There is prison is the epitome.
Totally.
Is the paragon of that. Because to get promoted as a guard, you're still the biggest idiot in there. Or if your uncle's the warden, there's no this guy knows his shit, And then these guards wind up expanding into being parole officers or OIG retards.
Crazy.
And all they do, they don't police those. They protect their own people. They don't police them.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
As you said, there's no oversight and there's no consequences.
Well, I tell you, when the Rangers got involved, they got involved over all this stuff. And they had 2 investigations going. They had one going against TDC, OIG, and the parole board over the $300,000 shakedown. Then they had another one going over the sheriff's department and the DA's office. I got put in prison. Well, the Rangers came on a Tuesday, and I said, I'm going to come back Thursday. And I was up for parole at this point. And I said, all right. Well, the unit parole officer, she calls me in her office, and I never seen her before. And she was like, every unit has one. Like, where are you going if you get out, which you're not getting out, but just in case, whatever. And she literally tells me when I get up, she goes, hey, you're going to need to come back tomorrow. I said, well, do you need something? She goes, man, I got terrible ADHD. She goes, I'm not going to remember this conversation. It's tomorrow coming because I don't have time to write this down right now. I'm like, these people in charge of me getting out?
Right.
But anyway, when the Rangers were there, they were there on Tuesday, we're working back Thursday. So Thursday, guards come in and say, hey, you got a visitor. It's all right. So I figured it's the Ranger. Cool dude. So they take me to the law library. We always just met in the major's office. Really pissed off the major. So we'd use his office. But they, it's this parole officer who was involved in the $300,000 shakedown. He wasn't even in that region. He goes to the region where I am, gets my file. He worked in a whole separate part of Texas. And he, I guess, assigns himself to my case. And big old tall guy comes in there. I was like, who are you? And he said, I'm so-and-so. And I knew him by the next hour. I was in a lawsuit with him, right? I said, what do you want? He goes, well, I got your parole file. And I said, really? You're not even supposed to be here. He goes, I got your case is up to me. And you know what? He goes, you ain't got a chance. Good luck, man. All right. Go yourself, And so Rangers come like 30 minutes later. I'm telling this Ranger, he goes, you got to be shitting me. He goes, this major that busted your shoulder and jaw are investigating. Now, he's a parole officer on this unit. Yeah. And the parole commissioner, for this not even this reason, that we're investigating, came and told you to, your parole. Yeah. He goes, what do you think your chances of getting out are on parole? I said, slim and none, and Slim just rode out of town, man. But finally Hal got out to get to the end of the prison stuff. It was crazy stuff. And
Did you get any good time?
They don't have good time.
You did day for day.
Yeah, I don't have good time in Texas.
Right. So you're either going to get parole, which you probably won't, or you're going to do your time. So you got out. How much time did you do total?
19 years, 4 months, and 4 days.
Wow.
When I came up for parole, my story, HPD followed me through. And then for many years, I didn't find it until 3 years after it was following me. I was an undercover FBI agent, and they're watching the guards. Well, so I just let these rumors float because they move inmates and
they said you were was the rumor in prison that you were.
That's what guards, and I didn't start that rumor. I didn't know it. Somebody said, "Yeah, when I was at the unit 3 years ago, we all knew you're an FBI agent." I was like, "Yeah, absolutely. Damn, I'm burned,
Yeah,
because that kept the guards at base for somewhat because they move inmates and guards constantly, especially because of my security issues. They bounce me all over. But I was at the Hughes unit where if they cannot control you, that's where you go. Is the Hughes unit. And I was passing through one night there because of a high-ranking Texas politician was involved. Kept moving me every time we get death threats. I was supposed to be going to a private unit, but I stopped at Hughes overnight. I had jammed it there for 8 months. But the warden there at the Hughes at the time, he was the warden from the PAC unit. I got my jaw busted, right? The U.S. Marshals came and got me off there because I had a federal lawsuit. That marshal said they're going to kill him on there.
Wow.
But that warden put me called me out, and he locked me up and said all the time, I'd be an asshole, just because it's like a vacation, get there by yourself. But they move you at count time because at count they have to freeze the unit, right? Everybody you go to your cell to get everybody counted. They roll this door right before count time, and this guy was like African American guy, like 6'5", big son of a bitch, man. And they shut the door, and he goes, you that motherfucking lawman out of Harris County, ain't you? the warden told him. I was like, oh, fuck this, man. So I'm stuck in there like 20 minutes, right? Listen to this bullshit. And then the door rolled, and I didn't unload my stuff out of the cart. Right back to SAG and locked me up.
Yeah.
Then he said that same warden, man, he got pissed at that again. He just shit me for 9 months, 8 months. I was there, 8 or 9 months. And he put me in this one wing, 8 building for everybody out there who's been in a huge unit. It's not just for homosexuals. This is for freaking crazy homosexuals. And most of them are like little Hispanic guys. But he'd stick me in there, right? And I had a thing. I had a bottom row, bottom bunk restriction. So I wouldn't get, I always slept on the bottom bunk.
Get a bottom
row,
restriction?
bottom row. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, bottom bunk, bottom row restriction because of the heat. But anyway, I was smart in those prison guys. I mean, I did so with that all the time. That's how I outsmart them. But
So-
when they put me in there with those crazy gay dudes, because I went on restriction, right? So I get they'd roll the door and go to commissary. And they were in there, they're all like little like Hondurans or something. I don't know what the hell they were. But they'd fight those guards. They were vicious. And they stayed in there. The only time they let them out is they'd roll one door at a time. 2 of them would come out and get their trays and sit there.
Yeah.
But then they'd be hollering at me every time, we hate you, you're ugly. Why are you in here? They say it to me all the time. But when I was going to go to commissary, hey man, can you give me some mint sticks? Hey, give me raw soup, man.
Yeah.
You know? And then when I leave, we hate you. Don't ever come in here again when you're ugly. They always told me that.
It's a good impression.
It hurt my feelings. Oh, I was distraught over that.
Yeah, because I thought they would see you as like a bear. They would see you as a,
I don't know what a bear is, but
well, they'd be.
I know what a bear is.
I think they'd be otters in the
Yeah,
community.
but it was a. But yeah, I was in there, and then
So what about now? So what have you done the last four and a half?
a little over 5 years and 2 days I've been out.
Yeah.
When I finally got out, I was sent to a private unit and went to that prison entrepreneurship program. But the day I got out, the time I got out was my 10th time up. And I'm going to say her name. She's great. Tracy Long was the parole commissioner. And she gave me a year set off the year before. And I had like a year left. And because of COVID, they couldn't come in. And so the major comes against me and said, hey, parole wants to talk to you, And this thing about private units, like when Biden, one of his big things was try to get rid of them.
Private prisons?
Private prisons are a place to go. They got to be privatized. I don't care if people make money. You look at what you go through. I don't care if I'm a crazy, if I was a murderer.
Interesting.
Not animals. I'm telling you, private units, MTC.
I see. I've talked to guys that have said private prisons were some of the most violent because the staff is so undertrained. They're the most corrupt. But I don't know. Maybe not. I mean, I think he was in Ohio. Yeah. This is so.
I was culture shocked when I got there.
Really?
No Nigerians. This thing, when they started flooding TDC with Nigerians, they were vicious, vile individuals, man. And they hated all the time. I hate you American blacks. They hated the black inmates more than they hated us. They just despised them. They're vicious. But anyway, when I went and met with Tracy Long, I go to the major's office. He was a great guy, man. Kenneth was his name. And he sits me at his desk, and he sits on a computer screen, and he said, she'll be on here in a minute. I'm like, all right, and it pops up, and there's this, looks like the lady, your mom or whatever, and she called me Kent, which is, my name is Joseph Kenton McGowen, but I was with my Kent, never going by my, she called me Kent. So I was like, yeah, I kind of call. And I was ready to lay my spiel out to her, man. I didn't do this, man. I got a year, I didn't do this. Leave me in there for a year, I didn't do it, I didn't get it out. She says, she goes, can you hear me? I said, yes, ma'am. Can you hear me? Because I had a stupid look on my face. And she goes, yeah. I said, I don't sound like a techno imbecile. I've never talked on a computer before. She kind of laughed. She was like, yes, you have. And I said, no. And man, right off the bat, dude, she said, right off the bat, she said, I cannot in good conscience let you sit here for 20 years. She said, I know what's happened to you. I know how you wound up in prison. I know what's going on in here with you. I'm going to give you an FI-1, which is an immediate release, and get you out here immediately. And I was like, trying to cry. And I have to say, thank you. And I said, you gave me a year, I know it takes 2 votes. She goes, and both y'all gave me a set off last year. And the other guy was a retired sheriff, the sheriff out of Lubbock County, Texas. And she goes, don't worry. Call's been made. We're going to get you out of here. And then she looked at me and she goes, do you know why you've been denied parole for 15 years? And why this is your 10th time up? And I said, I have my suspicions. And she said, her name's, I'm going to say her names. I don't care. They can sue me. Y'all can bleep it out. She said, it's John Denholm. The name's John Denholm and Steve Clapper. Denholm's a homicide lieutenant. Clapper's a DA investigator. She said, the name's John Denholm and Steve Clapper. Familiar with you? I said, the other guys just set me up. She said, they've been calling here for 15 years. Wow. Telling us that, and she even told me then that nobody's ever protested your parole. And I've had other people tell me that too. Somebody's behind the scenes doing this. And she said Clapper and Denholm had been calling her for 15 years. Telling us you had contracts out to have them killed. If we let you out of here, that you're going to go kill them. You're going to murder them. I said, well, that would be understandable, and I'm not going to do it, of course, She says, I'm going to get you out of here immediately, It still took 86 days because they kept calling. When I got out, the parole officers told me, this Clapper and Denholm guy are calling us,
Psychos. So where are they now, Clapper and Denholm? Are they still on the force? Are they still
Clapper,
serving in the
as far as I know,
he's
he's been fired from job to job. And last night, he was a reserve at Liberty County and in Ohio, and in north of Houston. And when I got out, Denholm fled to. He was a DA investigator. The prosecutor, we have no idea, dead or alive. There's actually no record of him anywhere. And then Denholm set me up. Him and Sergeant Dave, my sergeant, they're Ohio buddies. They fled to Ohio when I got out. They thought that I was not going to live through prison. And I tell you, it is an absolute miracle I was not murdered in prison or worse.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, man. But they, and I survived it, man, mentally and physically. I was never institutionalized. The only work institutionalized, I call it the chow hall because we did in the military and the police.
Yeah. So do you have any lawsuits now?
They're coming, yeah.
Okay.
What leads me to here, because I know your time's running, is the guy, a bunch of Houston PD guys picked me up, I told you about my mom and my dad, my son. They're the three people I wanted when I got out to be here. It was COVID. I hadn't seen the sun in 17 months, But I walk out and I was looking for my mom and dad, my son, because, when you're in there, man, you got to bury that stuff. It'll kill you.
Yeah.
You got to worry about surviving and getting out for the people that are still out there. And so, I was looking around. They weren't there, and I see these HPD dudes there. Hey, man, they brought clothes. I put on a lace-up shirt, a belt, button-up shirt. What the hell, man? Freaking culture shock, dude.
Yeah.
And I walked out, and they got me a phone. They said, don't look up yourself, your Lord. Because I had 8.5 months on parole. Do not give these bad guys any reason to jam you up. So next day, real quick, I had to go to my parole officer. She told me the same thing because they had me on an ankle monitor. I was under house arrest basically. And the parole commissioner said no restrictions at all. But the parole lady said, look, man, because I was assigned a supervisor and a parole officer to them. She said, we don't think you're going to do something stupid or dangerous. Just God forbid something happens to you, it's going off the chain of command. I said, I can deal with that. You can chain me to a tree and throw a water bird at me once a day. I don't care. Let me the hell out of here, But I was out about a year, and then I get this FBI agent, Michael Tabman, retired 26-year veteran, special agent in the FBI. He's a police officer before that. And just like everybody else, the ranger, everybody else said, man, we thought you're full of shit. We got your letters, or, we thought you're full of shit. And they all said the same thing, man. And we started reading these documents. We started talking to witnesses that are now, these people are threatened back then, law enforcement guys, your career's over if you talk. So he did a 3-year investigation. We got videotaped of homicide detective, and a federal agent was involved. The 2 guys that were with me at the shooting, and a bunch of people. Like I told you yesterday, man, after I did that little podcast, man, I had a narcotics sergeant from Harris County, got a 10-year sentence from these same guys. There's at least 6 of them that we know of, 7 after talking to this guy yesterday. But
so is there a federal ongoing investigation?
Yeah, we did that, and then as soon as that investigation was over, Jerry Langton, through a mutual friend, the guy who wrote the book, contacted me. That took 15 months. No lawyer would touch me. And then I knew the book was about 2 months out, and I called a lawyer. I can't discuss the individual's name right now. We're going to do when they comes out with this, it's going to drop a nuke right in the middle of it, and they find out who this lawyer is. But I called that lawyer and left a message, and they called back to get in my office, man. They said, the lawyer told me, she said, I'm the only person that's going to take your case.
So you should be getting
the only
paid.
person to get you out of this.
So what are you trying to get on the state level?
Just, man.
Trying to get money per day you were incarcerated?
Well, yeah. In Texas, you have to get full exonerated by the state. The state never does that. Texas,
right. They
don't say, man, we f***ed up, here's $3 million.
Right.
Never, hell no. But, and people ask me that, what are you trying to get out of this, whatever. Why don't you just let this go? And in the book, Ray Hunt for the police union, he aptly told Jerry and put in the book, he said people like Ken who have been unlawfully put in prison, they feel such a deep sense of being wronged, they can't get over it. And I say that, I'll get through this. My family will get through this. We'll never get over it. This has utterly annihilated my family, socially, professionally, financially, and otherwise. I think the stress killed my mom, my dad, and my son. I really do. But the 4 reasons I do this is, number one, is there's much due justice needs to come to my family, be it compensation or whatever. Something. Something the state saying, man, we don't happen, we did this to you. something.
Yeah.
You know? And number two, on my mom and dad's deathbed, they died 11 months apart. They made me promise them. They said, you'll fight this to you clear your name and the family's name. And number three, my kids, now my grandkids, they grew up with a stigma. Oh, it's documentaries, whatever. Oh, your dad, your granddad's a rogue, murdering psycho cop gone rogue and all this stuff. That's the third reason. And the fourth reason is these guys who've done this to my family and me, they've done this to a lot of other people, man.
Right.
Not just police officers, civilians.
Yeah.
I can show you documented stuff where they've sent innocent men twice on death row just to make names for themselves. It's
So-
a vindictiveness and maliciousness.
I'll ask you again, is there a FBI criminal investigation ongoing right now?
Yeah, after the retired FBI guy did his, then the book came out, and I got this lawyer. So all that's en route, yeah. We're taking it to the FBI. There's clearly, the Texas Ranger told me, they said, you clearly have some legitimate criminal complaints here.
Okay.
And the retired FBI agent, of course, he knows that stuff.
Okay.
So we're in the process of getting a package together to take it to the FBI.
I see.
And then civil suits, absolutely.
Okay. Against the
then-
state, and then do you sue those individuals as well, or do you sue
Yeah,
the
you can't
state?
sue it under federal. I think Article 11 of the Constitution. You can't sue a state, but you can sue individuals. But you can sue a municipality, a county, the federal government.
Right.
So, but like if this worked out, the county would have to pay me back pay for 34 years plus seniority and rank.
That'd be
something.
sweet.
Yeah.
Then you can have those guys killed, bro. Okay,
I wouldn't do that, but I wouldn't be sad if someone did.
right? Okay, Reasonable Doubts by Joseph Kent McGowen and Jerry Langton. Go get it. Go get it. Where can they get the book?
Barnes main place. It's all over, but
Yeah.
Amazon and Barnes and Noble, easiest
course.
place. Yeah.
Kent, I am so sorry that happened to you. I really am, but I admire your strength and glad you're home. And,
Yeah, so am I.
and yeah, go get your justice, man.
Yeah, I
because
will.
people are sick of this shit. They're sick of it. And look, if you live in Texas, I'm sorry. This is one of the shittiest places on earth.
Well, I'm leaving soon.
Yeah.
I'm a lifelong Texan, but I'm out of here, man.
Yeah. There needs to be a political revolution, just like there is happening in Florida right now with James Fishback. That needs to happen here. And the first thing you got to do is get that Zionist out of office.
Well, I've got.
Fat.
I tell you this, I kind of have a handle on Facebook, other stuff. I can learn is TikTok and stuff, man.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, if there's anybody out there listen to this or watch this, whatever, reach out to me, man. I'll talk to you. I talk to people all the time. I've become pretty well-known activist and advocate
Good.
against this. Innocent people in prison, it's a crazy phenomenon.
Yeah.
If it doesn't happen to you or one of your loved ones or your buddy, whatever, I don't give a shit about that. Yeah, wait till it happens because it can happen to me and my family.
Right.
It can happen to anybody. I'm telling you, man.
Well, you were telling me off camera. Oh no, actually, I think you describing your buddy, the cop whose girlfriend's got her 4-year-old daughter to put him in prison for 40 years or something.
3 40-year sentences and a 10, yeah.
I mean, that happens. You
All the time.
don't believe it until you're around the people that it actually happened to, and you're like, oh, this does happen in America. This supposedly freest country on earth happens
All the time.
of the time.
I would watch when I was locked up. Because people say, oh, everybody's in prison is innocent. Hell no, man. The bad guys brag. They brag all the time.
Right.
But I'd watch visitations where someone go to visitation, they come back, man, I hold this, pull something out, But you see a guy come with tears in his eyes. That guy, he's like me, screaming hard the whole time. Man, I got jammed up. You see that dude coming from, I don't care what race, creed, or color, coming back from visitation, you can tell the dude's innocent, man.
Yeah.
Because the only thing that could make this worse for me is if I had done something stupid, let alone illegal, for what this has done to my family, I wouldn't have done this. I would have put an end to myself. If I'd done something, I couldn't bear to see what my family's gone through. And if it was because of me, I couldn't deal with it, man. There's no way.
Well, thanks for your work and thanks for coming on here.
Well, I appreciate the invite.
Yeah, and the link to your book will be in the description and the comment. And I encourage you to just keep doing what you're doing and speaking out. And yeah.
And I don't know if it's cool or not, y'all can edit it or whatever, but I have enormous legal fees and I have a Give, Send, Go.
Oh, okay.
If anybody you go to Give, Send, Go, it's like a,
Okay. Yeah, we'll put the link in there too.
yeah, and just put Kent McGowen to go to first responders.
Okay.
Responders, but yeah.
Awesome.
I have huge legal fees, man.
Man, I hope you get that money back, bro.
I will. It'll be worth it because in the lawsuits and
Yeah.
that same lawyer, we talked about Cogdale and these people suing us. Because her mortal enemies in life were Cogdale, Clapper, and Denham. But she
Yeah.
issues with them. She said, we're suing all these motherfuckers.
That's it, man.
Rock and roll, man.
Your only crime was looking like John Goodman in The Big Lebowski.
When I was young, I said something funny. That sound
Have you heard that before?
No, I've heard those stuff before. What was it? Oh, Ted Cruz.
Yeah, you do look like Ted Cruz.
When my beard's kind of witchy.
Speaking of.
Yeah, Ted Cruz. I've heard Ted Cruz. But I'll tell you something funny. When Top Gun came out back in 85, whenever, my mother-in-law went and saw it. And that's how I had my military haircut and all that stuff, man. She came on and called my wife, her daughter, said, "You got to see this movie. Dude, Ken looks just like this guy. This is my fantastic schnoz, whatever." She was like, he looks just like Tom Cruise. Just like Tom Cruise.
That's hilarious. Yeah.
But I'll tell you
Wow,
this.
you do have those eyes, dude.
I've got we had the funding through a very well-known dude that you need to interview. I'll tell you when we get off this. But he, for a 2-hour documentary, and then he told me they got funding now for a 6-part, 2-hour bioepic. And I was like, that's great, man. I had no idea what a bioepic was. I'm still getting all this technology.
Yeah.
So I had to Google it when I got the phone.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, you guys, we're getting out of here. Make sure to check out his book and go donate if you can find it in your heart to help with this man's legal fees. Kent McGowen, thanks again.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, guys.
Man. Thanks for telling the story.
You got it.
Sir.
Take care.